Call the Scituate Planning Board meeting of March the 13th. Need a motion to accept the agenda.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
First item on the agenda is discussion with community preservation.
Did we-
Hand it over to Lisa.
Bill, did you want to say anything about the new vote on the Walnut
Good
Tree?
point. Under, at 10:45, under old business, we need to refine our vote that we made on the acceptance of the roadways for Walnut Tree Hill.
Oh, okay.
Hey.
Now, wait,
It's just-
we didn't really accept the roadways.
No,
Right. Didn't we
voted,
accept the,
we voted to recommend.
Yeah, okay.
So we have to make a change in the motion because they haven't formally requested the acceptance yet. So we need to condition it. If they did it, then we would accept it.
Okay,
Are we ready?
yeah.
Floor belongs to CPC.
Hi there. We've had a wonderful year this year. We normally have had in the past couple of years about a 28% match from the state. But the new legislation that I spoke about in our last meeting of 25 million of state surplus has been divvied up to all of the CPA communities, and it ended up in calculating about a double match for us from last year. So last year we had about $340,000 match from the state in addition to our surcharge, and this year we have about $680,000. So that was a very nice thing. Hoping to have a similar windfall, if you will, for next year, providing we can revote that 25 million legislation. That's something that needs to be revoted every year. So that's what we're working on currently. Just to remind you, we are a 9-member board. We have 4 at-large members and 5 members to as liaisons. As you know, Bill is our liaison from your board. We recently were fortunate enough to have Stephen Coulter from the Housing Authority join us, and so we are working sort of behind the scenes right now to try to move along some of our affordable housing initiatives, which is something that we've been very lax on in our earlier years. We hope to get on top of that. For this year, we have 5 projects that we're supporting, and I think you have them in front of you, and we'll begin with the Damon property. And I'll turn that over quickly to Frank and Cindy, who've been sort of honing in on this presentation now over the last few meetings, so we'll be very efficient.
You're familiar with Cindy Robbins from Maxwell Trust. So the Damon parcel is approximately 40 acres of uplands adjacent to the South Swamp off Clap Road. And this is all the Bates Lane property, which has been acquired over the past 10 years or so with CPC funds or Maxwell funds. And then this is the Crosby parcel, which we're hopefully passing on within the next,
Momentarily.
I hope. Little land court issues and some other things, but we're very, very close to doing that. So as you can see, this is all the South Swamp. And so the Damon property is really contiguous with this other piece, and that this is all just a wonderful wetlands. It's core habitat. And the Damon piece adjacent to this would be a tremendous asset. Also, we can flip around to the water resources map. Part of the Damon parcel borders on the water resource area that heads towards Tack Factory Pond. Some heads towards the Gulf through the Bound Brook or adjacent to Bound Brook. So it meets criteria in terms of protection of the water resources as well. And it's primarily uplands. There's, not that we're purchasing land to keep it from being developed, but the proponents that went have a very rough subdivision drawn, and I think they came up with 25 or 26 lots if this property were to be developed. And with all the projects that, are going on in Scituate right now, I think we hardly need one more. So we're hopeful that get the support of the town meeting and acquire this. You can also note that the Damon family is extremely helpful in all this, and they're willing to take us some for quite a bit less than they could get if this were on the open market.
Significantly less.
Yes, like hundreds of thousands less.
So the CPC was very interested in the property. Obviously, one of our first priorities in community preservation is the preservation of open space. Once open space is developed, we never get it back, ever. Whereas we do have a lot of other community town property that can be reused, if you will, for other types of purposes. Open space is not one of them. So when an opportunity like this comes up, especially when we're talking almost exclusively uplands, it's very attractive to community preservation. It also, there's a family history of the property. The family has owned the property for certainly longer than most of us have been around. There's some tradition with regard to them considering that forest sort of their cathedral for picnicking on Sundays. So there's a clear reason for this family to want to preserve it for open space, as opposed to developing it in any way. It's been used for forestry in the past. They have agreed for if the town does acquire the property to they would welcome the fact that people would still be able to go on the property and take wood for whatever they need it for. It would be open for that. There are ancient cart paths that cross the property still, which are wonderful ready-made walking paths. In certain seasons, in a dry season or during the winter, you can actually cross over from this property over to the Crosby property, which is almost closed upon, which accesses the rest of the Bates Conservation Land, which is a wonderful thing. As a matter of fact, and I didn't realize it until today at an earlier meeting, but apparently that path across the swamp is called the
Path my ass.
Path my ass. But apparently you can pass it in certain times of the year. People
it's
can, but
frozen,
certainly one of the important pieces of this property is that it also does connect a lot of our open space for different types of flora and fauna, if you will, and that's always a real priority for open space conservation, to make sure that habitats are protected and that there is passageway from one piece to the next. So it does not only add to that conservation land, but it comes into a different part on the other side of the swamp, so that's very important. And as Frank mentioned, we certainly would love to have this as open space as opposed to have it developed. There are a lot of families involved in this transaction, a lot of separate parcels that were put together in order to make this application, and we've got one shot at it. And the family has been approached by other folks who would love to have the property, apparently would pay, pretty much said, set your price for it, and we'll take it, and they would do whatever they want to do with it, which is a little worrisome to us. So we really hope to get this property, at this venture. We do have the P&S for it, and we would really like to be able to execute on it.
I don't know if you mentioned the price, but we're talking $17,000 an acre.
No, 20.
Or 20, I'm sorry.
Yeah. But that 20 includes whatever other legal fees, and if we need
Yeah.
surveys and other appraisals done. But up to 20 per acre, or up to the amount listed, and was that the 748,000, up to that. That includes money set aside for a small parking area for people to stop, like conservation has created, and we'll be creating at some of our other conservation lands so that people can stop, park, and enter the land on foot.
Questions from the board?
Just, Bill and I were fortunate enough to be at the presentation at the Selectmen's meeting, and I know that they brought up the concern about, I guess, more active recreation as opposed to passive recreation, like ball fields. I mean, is there, I mean, did you just sort of take that as that's a point, or did you plan to address that, or, I mean, what was the follow-up, basically, from that comment?
Well, this originally came up at their first meeting, and they were talking about, John Danahy made a case that he would really love to see more ball fields, and that when we acquire open space, we should also be considering recreation. Now, we do have a lot of other properties that we have acquired or that the town owns that could absolutely be used for ball fields. But we were pretty clear. We then invited the board to our last meeting on Monday and had a 2-hour-long conversation about this topic, whether Damon should have ball fields on it, where we could put ball fields if we didn't put it on Damon, and we'd come up with some great solutions. And I thought by the end of the meeting, we were pretty clear that Damon, number one, the family wants to conserve that property. There are other people who sell their property to the town who really don't have a concern for what happens to it. We've got, and I forgot to mention, we've got the Bonomi piece, we've got the Saminsky piece. Those are pieces of property that we have acquired based on, we want to protect water supply, and if they happen to be along one of the tributaries, we try to buy that up and protect it. But they are more centrally located to schools, to the community, and some of these properties, including part of the Bailey Ellis property, which is on 3A, much more appropriate for a ball field complex, if you will. The Damon property, first of all, is to be conserved for open space, and that's according to the family who has come to us in order to conserve and to preserve the property. But it's also, you would be plopping a ball field in the middle of open space in the West End, with no infrastructure around it to, take care of the parking and restrooms and all those types of things. So it's not our best place to put ball fields. So we had that discussion. We talked about certainly the Ellis property that's owned by the school. There's 20 acres there. It goes right up to 3A. It's already owned by the school, and something that could be easily used for a ball field complex, not just one field, but a couple of fields with well-designed parking, and still be able to protect it from the street with forest. So that's a wonderful alternative. And we've talked about a couple of other properties that we have in town that either could be purchased or transferred into ball fields. We've got right now $1.4 million reserved for the rec department. Some of that was set aside for playgrounds, fields, lights, and other types of recreation on the high school site. But because of right now, kind of the mystery of what's going to happen up at the high school due to the Gates School decision that's pending, that money's been sitting there. But it's there in the rec department. And at any time, if they wanted to revote that money to either purchase property for a ball field or put it somewhere else, we can do that. So I feel as though the ball field issue has been addressed in at least 3 different ways, 3 different alternatives that would hopefully mean that we would not have to make that some sort of a criteria for the Damon property, which I certainly wouldn't support as an area for ball field.
All right, thank you. That's a great follow-up.
Other questions? What I'd like to suggest is that the planning board endorse the purchase of the property.
Do you need a motion?
That would be perfect.
We have a motion?
No,
We have to make one up.
Yeah, otherwise.
I think it's as simple as supporting the CPC recommendation.
I move that we endorse the CPC recommendation for purchasing the Damon property for CPA, with CPA funds.
Second,
Second?
discussion, all those in favor?
Do you want to
Aye.
say for opens, for the purchase
Oh.
of, purpose of remaining as open space?
It's open
or-
space.
Okay, because that wasn't really in the motion, so it left it kind of.
I think the motion was support the CPC recommendation.
Yeah, that's
Oh, okay. Oh, so
perfect.
the recommendation is already there for.
That's a better motion than mine.
Thank you, though.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
It's great. Very good opportunity.
I think we'll get that And you can talk.
I'm not sure you voted. I think you made the motion, but I don't
Oh.
think it
Oh,
was.
let's
All
vote.
those in favor?
Aye.
I think we did.
Great, thank
We
you.
voted again?
It's tough when there's three chair people in the same.
Great.
Better than having none.
All right, thank you. Would you like to move on to the Tilden piece?
Tell them.
Go.
Okay, so we've got an application for, this is something that we've all kind of looked at before, but we all sort of turned our cheek from at the last minute because even though it was specified in Al Bangert's sidewalk study as a priority, based on the number of family residences who are close by the Wampatuck School, it's always been a very, very difficult piece of road to think about, given the fact that it's our scenic road, it's a narrow, very old road, there's many beautiful old trees and stone walls and other types of historic features on it, that it was one that was just really, really tough to address if you're thinking about putting some kind of either a sidewalk or a multi-use trail. But that neighborhood came forth and said, by gum, you know, we're gonna try to do something about this. So they took a really wonderful path. They first started with DPW and spoke to Al Bangert, who's had now an awful lot of experience with the multi-use trails, as well as he's the person who first crafted the sidewalk study and prioritized the areas of town that needed it. So he was actually very much in favor of this and let us all know some of the issues that we were going to be facing if we decided to take this on. And the folks in the neighborhood decided to do that. And the first piece was, because it's a very old road, and it's windy, and it's a scenic road, and so there are lots of issues with regard to the old trees and stone walls. And usually when you have a, as you know, an application like this or a suggestion, everyone thinks it's a good idea except the people who live on that road. So the applicants took the time to lobby and survey and knock on the doors of the residents along Tilden Road. And I think we've got in the packet there, you'll see at least 30 of the residents, excuse me, who have signed some sort of a survey, if you will, saying that they would be in favor of it. As a matter of fact, some of the people who had the old trees and the stone walls said that, and they are in favor of a multi-use trail, but if it meant it crossed their yard, that they would prefer that it actually came onto their yard in order to keep the trees or the stone walls, so that they would allow a meandering trail to go onto their yard and back off the property at some point in order to save the trees or the stone walls or any other one of the scenic features. So I think it's the first time in my experience at CPC that there's been that level of a butter compliance, if you will, to this. So I felt that that was really worthy of following through. Also in your packet there, you'll see that this is hopefully would be part of an eventual 3-phase project. The first phase, I think you're looking at, do you have the maps there? It would be the piece that goes.
I don't think so.
I don't think,
You didn't, okay.
I recall them.
Okay. Do you have something to look at, if you will? So there's 3 phases. The first phase that we're funding, that we're proposing to fund at $375,000 is the piece that
Did you get a map?
I think it was
goes from Turner
electronic, yeah.
Road to Beaver
What?
Dam.
Yeah, I think they were sent out.
I also remember seeing
Previous
it
meeting.
at the selectmen's meeting.
I have the write-up.
Does
I
anyone
wouldn't
have
have had
one?
them
If
anyway.
not,
No.
you want me to send this down? Okay.
Yeah.
So on this sheet, you'll see that it's this piece right here.
Okay.
All right, so this piece right here, and we'll send that along. This would be the second phase, which would go from Beaver Dam Road into the harbor, onto, that's the Stockbridge Road piece. And then, our board said, wow, as long as you're able to do that, what we really need is to also bring it up Beaver Dam,
Oh.
So this is
such that we can hit Roach Field,
Right.
right? So the kids could walk,
First parish.
hopefully from either the school or their neighborhoods,
Yeah, yeah.
eventually up to the ball field.
Yeah.
Which is an issue because that's where the train crossing is. So, but, you know, that's an option, but we're not gonna worry about phase 2 and phase 3 right now. We try to do this as in little segments, one piece at a time, and eventually it all connects into the grand loop that you've heard about before, which is a wonderful multi-use trail that circumnavigates the whole town, connecting residences, the business districts, the historic sites, the recreational sites. And this is yet again one more little piece of that, which would allow us to have a connection between many family residences and certainly the developments now, the new development there on Tilden, to get to the Wampatuck School, which would be really, really a necessary thing to do, given that the families are all growing there. And right now, the folks who live in that neighborhood are actually driving less than a quarter of a mile to get their child to school because the road right now is so dangerous that they don't allow them to walk. So I believe you do have the financials in front of you. Al gave us an estimated breakdown based on his experience on the past 2 multi-use trails that he's done. And with the engineering and permitting, as well as the contingency, they're asking for $375,000 to complete phase 1.
You recall that when we did Tilden Farms?
Yeah.
When we did Tilden Farms, one of the things that we had done was to work with the developer to basically extend it down towards sidewalk, extended down towards Wampatuck School. We ran into a situation where it would go onto somebody's property, and that was about as far as we could go without, but that issue that stopped us from doing before is really became a motivation to come back up and to continue work, or to go back and to revisit that sidewalk, because the people that live in the neighborhood see the need for it. But I think you're spot on when you sit there and said that this is unusual to have the people coming to us and they're saying that, I don't want it at all. It's a great idea, but I don't want it in my front yard.
How does that work about like the meandering aspect? Like, for instance, if I had the front yard and there was a stone wall and it was narrow, and I did say, hey, no problem, do we have to get an easement? Does the town have to get an easement? Is there like legal subdivision of land and those kinds of things? Does that start getting complicated, I guess, is my question.
Well, it's certainly not as easy as if you just, if we just had access to town-owned property, but this process, the engineering design process, will take all this into consideration. They'll first figure out where the actual, boundaries of the road are, and sometimes over the years that has changed.
Right.
Every time they pave it, things shift. So they'll figure out what exactly the width of the road is, how much after that is town-owned, and then where they would have to go. In the case of Country Way, which, as you know, was a project that was approved a year ago, last year.
Here you go.
It was voted last year, yeah.
Yeah, they ran into an issue whether they could actually take land on one side or they could move telephone poles on the other side, right? And so because it's, a little more efficient to not have to take the land, better to move the telephone poles because the company will do that for free. So they make that decision. So a decision will be made when they start to do the design and engineering about exactly what needs to be done. But with regard to coming onto private property, yes, there would have to be some sort of a documented permission given in order to do that. But that would be an awful lot easier when you have people who are willing to do it.
Right, okay.
Questions on the board?
I'm just looking at this picture, and it looks like a lot of sort of the area is very steep slope and all that kind of stuff. I mean, how are you anticipating building a multi-purpose trail through something like that?
Yeah, this is a very good question.
It
And
seems
again,
like
we're running
the
into
estimate
that
might
on
be
the...
pretty high.
Yeah, we're running into that on the Country Way piece, and part of the engineering is that they look at the level of the road, and they look at what's going to happen with runoff, and they decide whether or not they're going to have to put, some sort of sewer drainage and other types of things. So that's all considered part of the engineering and design piece.
And that's all in the 375,000?
Yep. Do you have the breakdown of the
No.
finance piece? So that's in the package as well.
Yeah, I couldn't find it electronically. I don't know if we got it. I couldn't see it either.
I don't
But
think
the
I have.
engineering and permitting piece covers that. So all that is decided once they start to do the surveying and engineering, and then they come in.
Oh,
and look
wait,
at the-
maybe I do. Here. Sorry.
No, I guess my question was the 375,000 developed anticipating how much earth might have to be moved, how many retaining walls might have to be built
Absolutely.
in order to put, a multi-purpose trail through something this difficult.
That's why they went to Al, based on his experience with DPW and building the other trails, with his knowledge and the engineer's knowledge of the topography that they would be looking at between those two, between Tilden and Beaver Dam. Sorry, Beaver Dam and Turner.
It's not unlike what they did on Gannett Road when they came back, because there are sections where they had to put in retaining walls, or sections where they had to rebuild walls.
And again, this will also involve public meetings, so that the folks in the neighborhood then will come together, and they'll have one, drawing or two drawings options, and then the neighbors will be able to talk about that, and about if it does have to go from one side to the other, or how you would cross the road, if there is one person that would really prefer it be on their side or not on their side. So a lot will take place during that design period based on, obviously, engineering requirements, but also the residents' desires.
And how far is this first phase?
The first phase is 3,200 feet. So it goes from Turner Road to Beaver Dam.
So like 2/3 of a mile. This is phase 1, this is phase 2 from here to there.
Yep.
Is there a phase 3?
Phase 3 is the one that would bring it up to the ballpark, Roach Field.
Going up this
To
way?
the common, basically.
Some-
Going up Beaver Dam.
Going away from the harbor.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right, but the question there is the railroad crossing. How would that look? Any other questions? No, unfortunately, you've got 1 minute left.
Okay. What would you like me to do? You want me to run through the other ones really
Yeah,
quickly?
just, why don't you just give a flavor for what they are? And
Okay,
then-
the other three are quite easy. The mossing shed transfer, the Historical Society would like to take it from where it sits right now on Edward Foster Road and crane it over to the Mossing Museum over on the Driftway and attach it to the museum, which makes a lot of sense. It's a mossing shed, the only one left, they think, in the entire United States. Nobody looks at it where it is over at the Marina Park. They will look at it if they're going to the Mossing Museum, they'll see the mossing shed. So that will be $21,800 to move that and attach it to the other museum. All right?
This week.
Any questions on that one?
The shed where it's located right now is sort of how it was used.
It's sorry?
It's in place where it was used before.
No, actually, that
It's
was
not.
moved.
It's been
where it was
relocated.
as well, yeah.
Okay.
It's like a house trailer, they moved it all
Yeah.
around town. Okay.
Good. Then we have a skate park renovation for the rec department. Currently, we have a skate park on the high school site. It is in great disrepair, and there was a huge group that was made up by Dan Monger and his family and all of their friends, and they've done a wonderful job marketing and lobbying for the renovation of the skate park. It's taken priority in the rec department's list of projects for this year. And we even went to the trouble of having a personal conversation with Superintendent McCarthy as well as the architects to say that indeed, unless something really ridiculous happens, that site will remain as the skate park site. And they've done a multi-page application that you can have a look at in our Dropbox if you haven't yet, describing exactly what they would do to renovate it and an entire detailed cost breakdown as well, in order to recreate a state-of-the-art skate park with materials that are practically maintenance-free.
Does it include the adjacent, tennis courts and all that?
Right now, it kind
Or
of
is it just-
circumnavigates those tennis courts, part of it does.
No, I know that. I'm asking, is the renovation, is it just the skate park? It's not the tennis
It's
courts?
just the skate park and a little property that goes up that hill. They might want that as well, which is right now just bushes and people drinking beer.
Okay.
Okay, and last we have the Bailey Ellis Estate. It's a town-owned building. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with it, but the Scituate Arts Association has rented it from the town since, I think, the late I don't know, it's in the application, I don't want to mistalk. But the town owns the building, and the Scituate Arts Association has been renting it from the town, but they've been responsible, completely 100% responsible for the maintenance of it, the management of it, turning it into a very productive artist studio area, and also give classes to the public. All of the property is accessed by the public. There's, the conservation owns part of it, the school owns part of it, there's trails all along it. They've come to us very strategically looking for only enough funds to apply for the National Register. So once they get that, then it opens up a door to all kinds of state and federal funds for historic building preservation. They've asked us for a small amount of money to create a feasibility study to see exactly what they have to do with regard to restoration and renovation in order to go forward. And the first priority on that is this project, and that is basically sealing the building envelope. Right now, the roof leaks and the basement leaks, and because of the moisture, it's degrading the rest of the building. So the first step would be in order to restore that building, or at least to preserve it, would be to cut off that, to seal it. So the application that you're looking at does that. Again, it's a multi-page document that is available on our Dropbox. The Scituate Arts Association has never gone to the town looking for money for any of them to do this. They simply went to the town to say, who would you like us to go to with regard to getting a quotation in order to seal the building? So they got that recommendation, and they went to those folks, and their report is in there. Architecturally, what they would do to the site, as well as the basement and the roof. They had a couple of quotes. They took the least costly quote, and that's the one they've come to us for. Once they seal that building, and that's step one with regard to what was required from one of the agencies, the historic agencies, in order to then follow through with their ability to apply for other grants from the historic preservation committees in order to continue on with their work. So they've been very careful about what they request from CPC with regard to funding, such that that small amount of funding, usually under $10,000, can be used for matching funds, which opens the door then for them to go for much bigger state and federal grants that can help them restore this huge, huge building that, again, they've been very, very careful about with regard to maintaining and operating. So we've been very impressed with their ability to do that and support this one project to seal the building envelope.
Questions?
I just have a quick question. At the
Yes.
selectmen's meeting, I think the question was asked, the roof is a slate roof, and it's going to be replaced with asphalt shingles, is that correct?
I don't know unless I look at the recommendation. what the
I-
different
my-
Part
was.
My,
I'm sorry, I thought the front part was shingle, or not shingle, but
I thought it was, they mentioned slate.
Slate.
I just,
think in the back, I think it's asphalt.
okay. I just wanted to make sure that it was kept within a historically
Right,
accurate and
right.
significant way, which I'm assuming that they're doing, but that's all. That was my only question.
Janet and Robin Glazier have been just incredibly meticulous with regard to their work with the Historical Preservation Group and the standards that are required. So we've been very impressed with their ability to follow through and dot each I and cross each T on the details of making sure that they abide by all of the rules and regulations. Such to the point that I've got like 17 or 18 emails that go back and forth asking specifically for the amount of money that was community donated and the amount that was state funded, because they can only match funds to the community amount when they go for another grant for the ADA compliance, which again will open up another group of grants that they're available for, but they can only ask for funds matching what the community has donated, not the state. So, I mean, they are so careful about the details that they request and they apply for that I've got great confidence in their ability to maintain their standards.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you for keeping it within the timeframe.
Now-
Very good. I thank you for our time, and I'm sorry that we went a little over.
Not to worry. You started a few minutes late.
That's very good. Thank you all very much.
Report, do we want to vote on a recommendation?
We can do that. You want to vote on them all? Move to support all of them?
I think they're all great. I mean, I don't know if you want to have any discussion, but I think they all fit.
If your dentist so permits, would you make a motion to that effect?
So I vote that we endorse the recommendations by the CPC committee on current CPA funds for this fiscal year.
A second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thanks for your support.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
So we're, next item on the agenda is Scenic Road Public Shade Tree Public Hearing, National Grid. I see Mr. Breen. Welcome, sir.
I knew that roof leaked every time I pull up there with the kid.
Yeah, I know it.
Why don't you tell us what you want to do? Why you want to do
Such a
it?
great old building. You really gotta do what you need to do to keep it one piece.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
She said, don't, I know, she said, don't take a straw.
I can take it. Okay. I'm going to let the group from National Grid talk about the trees that we looked at. Also, George Story, the tree warden, the past tree warden, has looked at also. And we've got some trees that are dead and decaying, and they're also a hazard too for the wires around the areas that I don't know if you've seen this or not. I can pass this up to you.
Yeah, we have that.
We got this.
That one?
Yeah.
My name is Ryan Kress. I'm the arborist with National Grid's Hazard Tree Mitigation Program who went and did the survey of the main line that we're going to be working. Basically, we did a tree-by-tree survey of anything that could possibly come into contact with the lines, anything that was tall enough to reach the lines. I checked over those trees, and we were looking mainly for trees that were dead, dying, had some sort of structural integrity issues that in the case of storms in the near future could possibly come and bite us and knock your power out. In doing so, I found 17 trees within the public way for shade tree for Chapter 87. The trees were on Countryway, Driftway, Stockbridge Road, and one on First Parish Road. Basically, those trees we looked at, we would like to remove. There was one which we were going to trim, but the town has asked us to actually remove it instead because it's doing damage to the infrastructure of the sidewalk and the road. It's cracking up the asphalt sideway and pushing the curb of the road into the road. So, one moment. And I'll get a picture of that specific tree up for you.
That's on Wood Street?
That one is on First Parish.
Oh, okay.
It's right at the, if you're at the corner of First Parish and Stockbridge Road, it's a large Norway maple. It's right next to the walkway to that first house there, right kind of like in the sidewalk as well as in the gentleman's yard. I figured it'd be a good one to start with.
Have you talked to the neighbors? Talked to the people that...
In doing the work, the first thing that I do as I'm going down through is then I'm writing up the paperwork, is I leave paperwork for the homeowners to fill out because generally speaking they get first shot at the wood if they want it, as well as to make sure that if it's on their property we have permission to remove it. We have no right to work in the state if the tree isn't ours, and since we don't own trees we have to ask for everything that we do. So everybody, as far as homeowners along the line, has been notified, either in person by me, over the phone by me, or I have mailed them paperwork. Not everybody has responded. I still have a few people that haven't gotten back to me, but I don't believe any of those people off the top of my head are any of these. I think most of those were private trees, and that was only a couple households that didn't get back to us, or who I haven't physically spoken to at some point already. This tree in particular, you see here, it's a rather large Norway maple. You can see the gentleman's house that I was referencing. His sidewalk comes in right here, and
I'm sorry, I can't see that at all, so.
not a problem.
I know these guys.
I'll bring it
can
up to
here.
you. So that's the tree.
So is that directly across from what used to be the old library?
Not directly across the street, but on the other corner.
Okay.
Um,
On the other corner.
Correct.
So going
So,
out,
the
it's
area
on
we were
the
looking at
far
trimming-
left corner?
The area we were
Is
looking
that
at
what I-
I
trimming.
said it was on First Parish, and the library's really on Stockbridge.
No, I'm saying that if
Correct.
you're going out
So-
First
So
Parish.
this road right here is First Parish. Stockbridge is
Oh,
literally
okay.
like right here is where it comes in.
So is that Cary Litchfield to the right?
What's this, is that a road right there?
That's what I was thinking.
Right here's the road.
Oh,
Oh, what's
okay.
this here? Oh, that's a fence.
That's just a
I
fence.
see.
So the area we
So
were looking
Stockbridge
at,
is down here, and this is going towards the post office?
this is going towards the water.
Towards
If
the
you're going-
water,
If you're going
okay.
down First Parish, you're going toward, that way, gets you to the church parking lot and the
Mhm.
water
Yep.
and the ocean.
Oh, okay.
Over
What's on the
here,
other side?
over here, like on this side would be where the library is or
Uh-huh.
whatever that used to
Yeah,
be.
yeah.
The area we were looking at was, you can see the storm damaged area up in here, and where it's rotting out up in here. We wanted to remove a good chunk of this up in here to keep it from being able to hit the main line that runs across. The town has asked us to remove that tree specifically. One second.
That would make sense, because you got all the walkers going to school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just got to do that, I'm sorry. The mouse is not working too well on this sheet of paper.
Plus, doing it backwards is difficult.
Yeah, upside down and backwards doesn't help. So there's a little better of the area that was storm damaged and where it's rotting up in the top that we wanted to originally trim off. You can see the sidewalk there is cracking, and the curbing is actually being pushed into the road a bit. You can see it a bit better. So it's actually cracking the sidewalk for a good ways up through. So he asked us to actually just remove the tree in place of trimming it so that it doesn't cause you guys any further grief, as well as us later down the road in the future as the tree starts to die. As it's a very large Norway maple, it's probably one of the older ones in town. They generally don't do too well once they start getting older, they start to rot out. Norway maples don't do real well with rot, and they start to fall apart fairly quickly. So it would behoove us to, remove the tree if that's what the town would like, because it'll, as you saw, that crown was pretty expansive, and with it being right next to the three-phase lines, anything that comes off of that is going to obviously come into the road, into the gentleman's yard, or hit our lines, and probably
the
cause an
lines?
outage.
I didn't see those on the,
But then looking further looking at it, it was causing damage.
Yeah, makes
So there's
sense.
the main line
yeah,
up there. So this all actually comes up and over the line up over here. And this was the area we were looking at trimming off, just to get these limbs
Uh-huh.
off that are over the line here because of all the storm damage and the rot and the decay in there. And you can actually see you're losing some of the other branches here and there. So the tree's starting to die off anyway. But
is
the
it
area-
a case, though, where it could be selectively trimmed and preserved?
You're not going to preserve it. I mean, you can't really preserve a tree. When they start dying, generally, when you start seeing decline like this, it's generally a root-related issue. You have the road right there. The salt being sprayed onto the ground isn't too good for the roots. The roots are probably starting to die off and rot out, and that's probably what's causing the bulk of this decline in the tree. Maple trees specifically really don't like salt, and they're not particularly salt tolerant. And honestly, Norway maples, although they were selected because they grow really fast, quickly, and the reason they were starting to be planted was because after you guys had lost all the elms and everything, they needed something that would fill in towns and the cities very quickly, and they made a poor choice in choosing this one because it's not very disease resistant. It's not even really very urban resistant because most of the wounds that get caused with the tree, they readily rot out. There's no decay resistance to the tree. So once the tree starts going downhill, it's very difficult to save at that point. It's like that with a lot of our hardwoods up here anyway, but this one isn't. You actually can't plant these in Massachusetts anymore. They're considered an invasive species. In the end, it's not probably even worth trying to save at that point because they don't even want it in the state.
It's a nice big tree.
Yeah.
That
Yeah, it
is
is.
unfortunate.
Beautiful. It wasn't beautiful.
That's worth saving.
What, have you spoken to the homeowner?
I had originally permissioned it as a trim with the homeowner. I had left him a note letting him know that the town had asked us to remove the tree because he wasn't around when I had come through again afterwards. The gentleman's kind of hard to get a hold of. He's kind of in and out a lot. And the tree's been posted for the meeting for the last several weeks. So you should be pretty readily aware of the tree at that point.
Okay.
So,
Is it a town tree, though?
Yeah.
according to DPW.
Can't you tell it's a townie? I can look at a tree and tell if it's a townie.
So, and that's all the damage that's starting to do the sidewalk, so there, the crack, and all the cracks from the roots.
Originally, we were gonna save it, and then George started, went around again and looked at all the trees. I looked at them the first time, and George really the second time, but George was the one that recommended, and, that we take it down, because it is causing some damage, and it is rotting out of it. I think we could get a few more years probably out of it, or, I don't know how we,
But you got a liability there too.
yeah.
Yeah, as it starts to die, you're going to get limbs that fall out and it being over top of the sidewalk. There's a concern as far as that goes. The first tree on the list is, you're following the circuit, would actually be a maple here at 305 County Way, or County Road, I believe. Countryway, sorry. I
At
did that all the
305?
time when I was in town too, because I had a
This
country
is where the development is?
Yeah, I think
That one's gonna
Is that
come
what's
down
going in there?
already. Yeah, that one's actually one of the ones that they asked to have taken down.
Okay, but as you can see,
They, the developers?
They, the
yeah,
developers,
the
yeah.
base is rotting out pretty severely. It's one of the ones we were looking at trying to get out also due to that reason. For storm damage purposes down the line, as that rots out, the tree's just basically gonna come over. And that's the full tree. You can already see you're starting to get some decline in the tree due to the base and the roots starting to rot out. Ash tree, which is just down the road a little bit further.
At
Would
296.
be correct, it's the next one on your list. I put these in order for the list so that
Okay.
you guys are referencing them.
Mhm.
Also, their name right there as to which number they happen to be. So you can see most of it is dead and dying already. You barely have a crown left to the tree. So we were looking to get that one out because it's open three-phase there. So any limbs or branches that happen to hit those lines, if they cross the lines, are going to cause an outage. Nice little fireball and some noise too. You can kind of see there's also the bark is starting to fall off around the tree where the tree is dying. Actually, the live layer of the tree is actually already dead, and the bark is separated off and starting to fall off the tree. A little further down, I do believe this was April, I believe. It's the RK27
Ash.
tree.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at it upside down, it's hard to see the picture. Yes, ash tree. And as you can see, it has a very thin top, and you're starting to lose your fine branches and limbs in the top, so the tree is actually starting to die. More importantly, for our purposes, is I noticed that there is an area of decay where there's an elbow in the tree where the tree bends, where the terminal lead had originally broken, another lead had taken over in the tree, sometime back in time. And you've actually got an opening there, and it's all rotting out on the inside, and it causes a stress, weak point. As the energy travels down the tree from it swaying, right there is where it's actually going to collect, and since that's rotting out, that's the most likely place for the tree to break during a storm.
A lot of the trees on your list were ash trees. Is there something going on with ash trees?
Other than EAB and ash yellows, they've pretty much been dying anyway, all across the Northeast. It's from a combination of things. A lot of diseases are a little more prevalent than they used to be. Also, with populations of the ash that we have and the pressures of people on the ash trees that we have, they don't do real well in urban settings anymore.
Okay.
Actually, there's a number of our trees that really don't like pollution and road salt. Most of our hardwoods actually don't like it, and the more of it that gets dumped on them, the more they die. But in the case of ash, they've been dying all across the northern seaboard. It's actually one of the concerns that a lot of foresters and stuff have, as well as EAB being a concern across Massachusetts. I was talking to one tree warden, and I actually kind of joked with him because he asked me if EAB was going to end up killing all the ash trees in town, and I told him to take a look around. I said they'll all be dead before EAB gets here, because all the ash trees in this town are all dying off. Due to a combination of diseases and stresses from the community.
Yeah.
Which really doesn't necessarily have anything to do with a pest or anything coming in. It's just proper management. They're not planted in necessarily the right places. They don't like to be crowded by other trees. And because of the way our forests are, massive, at one point was all farmland, the ash trees and a lot of pioneer species came up in, and then now we got a lot of oak and everything else is starting to crowd those out, so they're naturally dying off anyway just from that, as another pressure in some areas. So there's unfortunately a lot of reasons why they're dying off in this area. Down the road at the pump station, I have a series of ash trees there that are a little older, and a few of them that are younger that are spawns of the larger ones that are there, and none of them are doing particularly well. Again, it's probably a road salt issue. That corner seems to be very heavily salted as a turn, and it looks like when they plow, they dump almost everything on that one side instead of dumping it on the lawns. So these trees are getting buried in salt slush and salt snow and everything else, and they basically aren't liking it. They're starting to die off because you can see how thin, and some of them are, that one's actually almost completely dead already. They've also been kind of beaten up a little here and there. You can see all the rot in the base of that tree specifically, and this is one of the smaller ones. So these concern us because they're right next to the main lines, they're next to the pump station. That line goes out, the pump station goes out, and all the customers in town on this line goes out. As you can see where they're all starting to die off at the tops and the crowns. They're getting very thin and falling apart already. There's actually quite a bit of deadwood over there the last time I was up in that area. Let's see, and then RK30, it looks like maybe a car or something had hit that tree at some point. At the base there, all of the bark has been ripped off the tree and that area is dead. Starting to rot out pretty good. And then on the other side of the tree, if you're standing on the side of the road and you're looking at it, you'll notice this long seam down the tree. And if you start looking at it, you'll notice there's small holes in there. And I didn't, unfortunately, because I came so late in the season, I did this in like November, looking at the trees, it's very difficult to find insect activity at that point. But there was still a little bit of frass here and there in the seam. It looks like carpenter ants have moved into the tree and are really starting to tunnel through the decay, causing issues in that. So that one's actually kind of a prime issue as far as the tree failing, because you've already got ants tunneling it out, and we know there's already severe decay on the inside of the tree.
This has nothing to do with the tree, but where do the carpenter ants go in the winter? Or do they all die off?
No, they're inside the tree or in the ground. They have multiple nesting areas generally. A lot of times, sometimes they'll be people's houses as nests. As unfortunate as that one is, and most people don't notice it until down the line. Sometimes they'll only be in like the wall, behind, like if you have wood paneling for the outside of your house, sometimes it'll just be up into wood paneling, or sheds is another place. My shed, I found a nest in there. That was really great.
Okay.
Replace the shed door for that. But you'll start noticing frass around the house or around another tree, and so those are where you can easily figure out where the nests are. Usually spring, once you start getting really nice and warm, you start noticing a lot of activity, and they'll start really tunneling out the trees pretty well, and you'll start finding piles of this wood pulping material, and that's frass from them dragging it out of the tree and just dumping it at the base of the tree. But if you don't catch it just right, they clean up after themselves and they spread it across your yard, so it's not
Noticeable.
And plus wind will help spread it, and rain and everything else, so they kind of clean up after themselves to hide themselves a little better.
Interesting.
This is the large red maple, or large red oak, a little further up the road from that. So it's number RK31 on the sheet. The tree is starting to decline a little bit, but what's more of concern is the base of the tree is really starting to rot out pretty severely. And that's what seems to be affecting the tree is the root structure. I couldn't really find anything else wrong with the tree as to why it's dying, so it has to be specific to the amount of decay that's inside, and it's basically disrupting the flow of nutrients up to the tree, and probably also has root rot, as you can see, because down the base, and then the roots, where they're disrupting the flow, it's not getting enough food and everything up throughout the tree, and it's not allowing the tree to maintain itself, and that's why it's starting to die off. It's a larger, older red oak in the area, and actually, if you look, you can see down in the tree and underneath is all rotted out underneath the tree. And that concerns me particularly because with it being so large and with a full canopy, this is most likely to fail to spring, summer, fall time, probably less likely in the winter when it has all the leaves, or possibly even after it has a crop of acorns, because it'll be so top heavy. And as the roots sprout it out more and more and more, it won't be able to support itself in the ground, and it'll fail from the ground across the road. And with it being so big and the amount of damage that it'll do, it'll take a very long time for anybody to clean that up, as well as the amount of holes that it will snap across the road.
All the rest on the list seem to be pretty much similar to what.
Yeah, and that's pretty much the story of the town is they're all pretty similar in their defects for a lot of the trees that I found, which is usually typical for a town, because you usually find the same defects in the trees in the local area. You usually find the same diseases and such too.
So these are all along the roots of the high capacity lines?
Correct. This is the main line that runs through the town that basically runs that side of the town and the area that goes through. And you all know where the substation is. The line originates in Norwalk, it's cross country or up across town, down the Sub T right away. And then it's the substation comes out like the substation right up there, goes down towards that light right there, takes a right turn and a left up the road up there, and basically shoots down country light, thank you.
Yeah.
And down the rotary, and it powers the area down the rotary, both ends, and then shoots up towards basically up towards your middle of town, the shore area, as well as coming up and then up First Parish from I think it was Stanford Street, and then it cuts down across and it's down to the water down there. So it services a significant portion of the town.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of people that go out when that line does go out.
Right.
So that's why we are looking to do the work on that.
Okay.
Let me ask, is there anyone here that has a concern about a tree or wants to talk about a tree? Or the trees? All of the trees?
I was wondering would the town consider planting new trees?
Yes. Yeah, that's actually the homeowner's request. The town will come back and plant one for one. They're small, they're 1.5 to 2-inch caliper, but the answer to that is yes.
I would generally suggest if the town is willing to do that, to pick wire-friendly species, smaller trees that grow less than like 35 feet in height. Mostly because a lot of these trees happen to be on the line side, and if you do plant them within what the town has for a taking, the takings are very small and limited, which actually would favor smaller trees. And it would also mean that National Grid wouldn't have to trim them as much or as badly. Because if you start planting red oaks and sugar maple and red maple up underneath the lines, once they get large enough to get up into the lines, I can tell you right now, the trim crews will basically top them right off. Because once they start reaching minimum approach distance, that's what they are required to do.
So is there a communication link channel between National Grid and the town DPW?
I can give Mr. Breen a list of wire-friendly species. I actually have them.
I think that's probably a decent idea.
You've already given that. He gave me about 4 or 5 different trees that were good trees to plant.
And I've got a whole pamphlet with a whole list of, I don't know, there's got to be like 40 species there.
Believe it or not, this is the short version. I've been with him for a few days on these trees, getting the whole version and everything like that. And we've thoroughly gone over these trees, and he's very thorough. And we sort of went by tree, and then just to be on the safe side, because there were so many trees we took down, I did call George Story, and he went tree by tree with all sorts. And there was nothing, the only thing we had, that nice big tree, we didn't really want to take that down, but it was causing problems, and it could be a liability to the town. That was the only one that, on the route, that it was in question.
Thank you, Mike. We have a motion?
Yep, do.
You want to hand it down here?
All right. Okay, move that the planning board vote to approve the removal by National Grid under the Hazard Tree Mitigation Program of the following trees under the Scenic Road Act in accordance with the attached list and as summarized herein as the trees are being removed to reduce tree outage problems affecting large numbers of National Grid customers. And the trees are on Country Way, Scenic Road, remove 11 trees. Stockbridge Road, Scenic Road, remove 2 trees. And First Parish Road, Scenic Road, remove 1 tree. If any resident requests a tree replacement, it will be provided by the town wherever feasible. The selection and location of trees shall be determined between the tree warden and town planner with input from the abutters.
Do we have a second?
Second?
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
You're all set.
Thank you.
That's tremendous. I don't know. I have no idea.
Some of that happy gas.
Mr. Breen's the person to talk to that. Next item on the agenda is a continuation of the public hearing from Scenic Road public hearing to 305 Country Way. Sure. The flexible open space special permit, definitive subdivision plan, as well as a scenic road. On the
Well, I have to leave it up to the lawyers to figure out what applies and what doesn't.
That's what I have.
Okay. Well, we probably have lawyers who can find other decisions as well, so, I'm sure they have, it's like competing, it's like having 2 watches sometimes, you never know what time it is. But maybe I'll give it to Laura and she can sort it all out.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As I said, this is 8:30, it's a continuation of the public hearing, from Scenic Road public hearing for 305 Country Way. You'll also note that we have one at 8:35, that's a continuation of the public hearing for the definitive subdivision plan for Blanchard Farm Estates. What we're going to do is we're going to do 305 Country Way. I anticipate that we'll go for about an hour and see where we are within the hour. To the extent it doesn't look like we'll finish it, then at that point, then we'll swing over and we will do Curtis Street. Having said that, so it's going to be probably 9:30 would be the earliest that we would come back up and do Curtis Street, 40 Curtis Street. Why don't we reintroduce ourselves, say what's transpired since our last meeting, and then we'll proceed from there.
Sure. For the record, Gregory Morse, registered engineer, Morse Engineering. To my left, the property owner, Doug Sheeran, and his attorney, Michael Hayes. Since we were before the board last time, there was an outstanding issue. One of the abutters had filed with the Conservation Commission a request for determination of applicability, and the board wanted closure, I guess, on that issue before moving forward with conditions of approval. Conservation Commission upheld their previous finding that the project did not propose any work inside the 100-foot buffer zone. It confirmed that its wetland resource areas were accurate according to the plan they previously reviewed, and they issued a negative determination of applicability. The abutter has appealed that to the state. The state has come out, the state has done a site walk, and the state determined that everything on the plans is accurate. The neighbor has filed appeal of that again, and it's going through a second round with the state. We don't expect to have any dates with that until June. There was a pre-trial conference scheduled for the 18th. That has not happened yet, obviously. There was an offer from the abutter to settle with the state. neither the abutter or the state have come to an agreement and settled. The property owner is not party to the suit. It is particularly between the DEP and the abutter. So the plans that you see on here have been approved by the DEP at this point. They've been approved by your Conservation Commission, and we'd like to move forward with conditions.
So the DEP has issued a determination, that determination has been appealed through the administrative law judges? Is that where that is right now?
Correct.
Laura?
My take on it is, just, I think, right along the same lines. There was a conference call the other day with the abutter, with his representative, with Mr. Morse, and with some representatives of DEP, and they tried to, come to some kind of a settlement, but what was agreed on was that there is going to be a second site visit, and there's going to be a continued attempt to get more information about what's going on with the tributaries, just to confirm that that what's on the plans is really completely scientifically correct. But it appears that the plans can be approved subject to the approval of the DEP, and also with conditions that if there has to be a modification, that the applicant has to come back to the planning board and have your approval to make any kind of a modification to the plan that would be triggered by a change in the delineation of that tributary.
When do you think would be the earliest we would have closure on this, Greg? I mean,
We're not scheduled. Actually, we weren't on the conference call, I don't think, neither Laura or myself, because we're not party to this. What I've seen in the paperwork is there's a pre-screening conference scheduled for the 18th, and then sometime in June is when it's supposed to actually go to a hearing. So I have no idea what the process is for how long that's going to take, but certainly there's nothing that prevents the board from moving forward. Appeals like this happen all the time.
I guess my question's from the other direction. Would not it prevent you from going forward?
No.
Well, they would do it at risk.
Yep.
So you're going to build a road that might have to be taken down and rebuilt somewhere else?
We understand the risks.
Wow.
The approval would be subject to the approval of the DEP, so.
So if we don't have
But it
that,
would
then
have
there's
to
no
wait.
work that can take place.
You don't see it having to wait until you get that approval?
No, they're doing it at risk.
No. It's not done that way in most cases. In most cases, a subdivision is approved, a notice of intent would be issued for a conservation filing, and then there's an appeal of a notice of intent. That's all after a subdivision is approved, typically. If there is some sort of outcome that would require us to come back, a modification, we'd certainly have to come back for that. But your approval and issuance of a permit does not have to be subject to this future date.
Yeah, no,
It's uncertain.
I understand that. It's just a question of when we approve it, does that trigger your actual on-the-ground, in-the-ground activity? And if so, yeah, I guess if you're doing it at risk, but that seems strange to me.
For our approval too, so once it goes out there, is that, 20-day or whatever it is, appeal
Yeah.
period as well? Period, where
But
it can be appealed.
if we approve it subject to approval by the DEP, and the DEP hasn't approved it yet, our approval doesn't count.
Right.
It
That's
doesn't
have to wait.
what I thought. The reason
No.
I was proposing to move, I thought that everybody was on the same page, if you could just let me finish, that everyone was on the same page with moving ahead, is sometimes approval by the planning board is really key to getting financing, it's key to a whole bunch of other things
Okay.
besides just starting construction.
Okay.
So that's the vein in which I thought they were, but if they're a whole different vein where they want to just go ahead and start construction, I think that's a whole different situation.
Well, it sounds like the DEP didn't find anything incorrect.
The DEP upheld what the Conservation Commission did,
Said
and that
said.
is that everything is accurate on the plans.
Everything is accurate on the plans, and then that decision is being appealed by the abutter with the DEP.
Correct.
But in the first round of
Well, it's
DEP,
not with the DEP, it's actually through a special appeal process. They're appealing the DEP's decision.
okay,
So they've gone to the next level, which my experience is that it can be anywhere from a couple of months to a couple of years on a decision like that.
okay. But doesn't a certain threshold have to be met for the DEP to say, we've made our decision, and then therefore that decision can then be appealed?
That's what's happened.
Okay, so in the DEP has said everything is accurate.
I hear what you're saying, Bob, yeah.
I'm just trying to understand it.
Right, no.
Yeah,
That
that's what
the
they've
appeal
said.
was,
That's what
Right.
they've said. And a butter or an appellant has appealed the DEP's
Yes.
decision on that.
yes,
So our
They're not in
approval,
agreement with the DEP. but-
correct, yes.
Right.
But the DEP didn't find any fault with the work that they've done, as far as planning and laying
and
things
so
out. Okay.
semantically, our approval could go forward subject to DEP approval, but DEP approval's already been gained.
Yeah,
I mean,
they've got it.
they've
Yeah, it's
approved it.
been given at one level, anyway.
Okay.
Basically, DEP has approved all of the things that have been presented so far, as well as the discussion that we had with all of the experts in one room. Basically, agreed with that.
Okay.
I just wanted to understand that process, that's all.
No, good. I think it's good to
It's
clarify.
layers upon layers.
Yeah,
Oh,
'cause
yes,
if
oh, no,
we-
no.
Helped me.
So what I'd like to do is to go ahead and proceed with the approvals, and see if we can reach closure on the scenic road, the special permit for, and conditions for the remainder of the plan. If that's agreeable to the board?
Yeah.
So having said that, any questions from the public before we proceed? Thank you. Introduce yourself, Lance, and tell us.
Lance Van Metten, 150 Old Lincoln Bucket Road. I think it's probably not a good idea to approve it until DEP completes the review. I'm not sure if work can really go forward until the adjudicatory hearing is completed. From what I know, I'm involved with this through Bill Crucell, the abutter. The other thing is just to bring it back to when you first started looking at this project, everybody who's here, except the one planning board member who's not here any longer, pretty much said that you didn't think 3 houses in conventional design would fit on this property. So basically, it's become a square peg being squeezed into a round hole after that. And somehow you jumped over issues that a zoning board should have been involved with, at least the zoning enforcement officer. And you went into 3-house flexible design, which I think you should never have gotten to that point. You know, when you were just discussing this and looking at the conventional plan, and there was so much agreement among the board that there's no way you would ever put a conventional
Let me
three-house
see if I can.
subdivision.
Characterize our decision.
Yeah, let's kind of, I don't want to reinvent the wheel, nor do I want to be a mule, like a mule in Missouri, and sit there and keep plowing the same ground over and over again. I think we've had that discussion, we have a vote, and the vote was unanimous to 3-lot subdivision is under current zoning. That became the basis of the density for the remainder of the plan, so that vote has already been taken. What we're looking to do now is to come back up and to see if we can reach closure one way or the other on the entire project. That's what we're looking to do. Sir?
Doug Sharon, if we'll take any weight off the board, I'll agree not to put the road until the appeals are done.
I mean, that's,
Excuse me?
I said that's a decision that you can make.
Right. But
So noted.
Probably I think you've got, in your package, you've got motions and conditions for 305 Country Way. 1 through 5. Shall we start with the scenic road?
Sure.
We have a motion leader.
Do you want me to read? I'll be happy to read. Draft scenic road approval, 305 Country Way. Suggested motion now becomes the motion before the board. I move that the planning board vote to approve the removal of the following trees in connection with the construction of a proposed flexible open space definitive subdivision consisting of 3 lots in the public right-of-way of 305 Country Way. 5 deciduous trees, 1 18-inch red maple, 1 12-inch Norway maple, 1 6-inch American elm, 1 10-inch, 8-inch leader black cherry, 1 10-inch Norway maple, 4, and brush smaller than 3 inches in diameter. No stone walls are proposed to be removed. All trees are to be replaced with a minimum 2.5 caliper native trees. The Scituate Highway and Public Grounds Department, with input from the town planner, will determine placement so as not to obscure site distance requirements for the development. The town will plant the trees.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Now logistically, how's the best way of doing it? Is to vote these one at a time?
I think,
Yeah.
Okay.
I just have, in the discussion phase, we said 1 10-inch, 10-inch, 8-inch leader black. What does that mean?
It's
I
got
would-
3
it's a
separate,
clump.
Shoots coming out.
Ah, okay,
From the same root structure,
okay.
I bet.
So I have any comments regarding the motion? Public comments? Board comments? I have a second.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
The next item is to review the special permit findings of fact motion. And just may make sure to clarify who the voter people are on this. For the special permit, there are going to have 4 votes. It will be Richard, Stephen, myself, and Bob. We've lost Eric, which you agreed to before.
Bob, vote.
Vogel, I'm sorry.
All right. Motion before the board. I move to make the following findings of fact based on information submitted by the applicant and testimony given during the public hearings. 1, Douglas E. Sheeran filed an application on February 28, 2013 for a special permit for a flexible open space development under Scituate zoning bylaw section 550 for property located at 305 Country Way, shown on Town of Scituate Assessor's maps as map block lot 3722 and 37813R. 2, the property that is subject of this application is an 8.56 acre parcel at 305 Country Way, which contained a single-family home, which has been raised. The property is located in the residential R1, residential R2, and water resource protection zoning districts. A small piece of the parcel, located at the southeast corner in the wetlands, is in the floodplain and watershed protection district. 3, a substantial portion of the property is located within an area designated by Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection as a Zone A or Surface Water Supply Protection Zone for the town reservoir, which extends 200 feet from a tributary to a surface water supply. Massachusetts DEP identified an intermittent stream that flows across this property as a tributary to the reservoir. Its location was established by review in the field by DEP's hydrologist Bruce Bauk and a survey by William J. McGovern, PLS of Morse Engineering, Inc. Scituate zoning bylaw section 520.5, Water Resource Protection District, Buffer Zone, requires a non-disturbance buffer zone extending 150 feet horizontally from the edge of all tributaries in the reservoir watershed. 4, the proposed stormwater management system has been reviewed by the town's consulting engineer, John Chesia of Chesia Consulting Service, LLC, whose comments indicate his concerns have been satisfactorily addressed. 5, the applicant provided a plan showing removal of trees and vegetation at the entrance to improve sight distance from the entrance towards Country Way to the south. 6, as required by Scituate zoning bylaws, section 550.4D, special permit approval. On July 25, 2013, the planning board approved a conventional density sketch plan showing 3 lots by a unanimous vote. 7, the following benefits are provided by the flexible open space development. A, the open space parcel provides permanent protection to a tributary to the town reservoir and associated wetlands by transferring 6.51 acres of open space, including the entire buffer area to the tributary on the parcel, to the town ownership. The open space parcel will be protected by signs and fencing to discourage any access. The requirement for open space for a flexible open space development on this site is 2.56 acres, including 0.77 acres of upland. On this site, 6.51 acres will be permanently preserved as open space, including 2.21 acres of upland. In protecting the town's water supply and providing additional open space beyond the requirements of the bylaw, this design provides a public benefit. B, a permanent easement over Lot 1 created through this development will improve sight distance for drivers on Country Way, as well as for those exiting the subdivision. Based on evidence and information provided by the applicant and reviewed by the board, the planning board finds that the flexible open space development is superior to a conventional subdivision, and there are specific benefits to the town consistent with those in the purpose section. 8, Scituate zoning bylaw, section 550.5, design standards, paragraph A, requires protection of important natural and historic features of the land and minimization of the size of developed areas. A buffer to a tributary to the town reservoir will be permanently protected by the proposed development. The development will take place on 2.05 acres of the site. 2.21 acres of upland will be permanently preserved as open space. The plan thus meets the design standard of Scituate zoning bylaws, section 550.5A. 9, Scituate zoning bylaws, section 550.5, paragraph B, requires that construction and laying out of developed areas respect the natural features of the parcel, applying 6 guidelines as follows. A, Guideline 1 encourages site disturbance beyond the paved area of the road to be minimized and open space maximized. Guideline 2 recommends that open space include buffers to wetlands. These are met by the minimization of developed area and preservation of open space as indicated in finding number 6 above. B, Guideline 3 recommends preservation of adjacent trees along or open space adjacent to existing roads. In this development, it was necessary to remove trees along the road to provide adequate sight distance, but the applicant has agreed to replace them in other locations. C, Guideline 4 recommends locating water and utilities under road pavement where possible. Water lines were located under roadways, and underground utilities will be used throughout. D, Guideline 5 indicates use of low-impact development, LID, drainage techniques wherever feasible. These techniques were not widely used on this site. E, Guideline 6 states curb cuts should be minimized and conflicts with existing traffic should be avoided. One existing curb cut will be used for the development. 10, Scituate zoning bylaw, section 550.C requires provisions satisfactory to the planning board for protection and maintenance of common land and common facilities. The open space in this development will be owned by the town. A homeowners association will own and maintain the drainage basin and roadway. 11, Scituate zoning bylaw, section 550.6, minimum requirements, states that the maximum number of lots in a flexible open space development special permit must not exceed the number which could be created through conventional development of the site. A conventional density sketch plan dated February 19th, 2013, with revisions through July 25th, 2013, shows the parcel could be subdivided into 3 lots in a manner which complies with the zoning bylaw and the standards of the subdivision rules and regulations. This plan was approved by the Planning Board on July 25th, 2013. 12, Scituate zoning bylaw sections 550.6A, lot area, and B, frontage, requires lot area and frontage for each lot in a flexible open space development to be sufficient to support the dwelling, its accessory structures, septic system, and access. Based on information provided by the applicant's engineer, each lot is of sufficient size to support construction of a single-family home and an individual septic system, and frontage appears adequate to provide access to each lot. 13, Scituate zoning bylaw, section 550.6C, requires 15-foot front, side, and rear setbacks in a flexible open space development, with setbacks from the perimeter of the development equal to those of the underlying zoning. Building envelopes shown on sheet 3 show setbacks for lots 1 through 3, which meet the requirements of 550.6C. 14, Scituate zoning bylaw section 550.6D requires no more than 1 single or 2-family dwelling and accessory structures on each lot. No more homes can be built on any lot because Scituate zoning bylaw prohibits construction of more than 1 single or 2-family home on a residential lot. See section 430.1. 15, Scituate zoning bylaw section 550.6E requires open space to be conveyed to the town, a conservation trust, or protected through a deed restriction accepted by the Massachusetts Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs. The open space shown on the plan will be conveyed to the town. 16, Scituate zoning bylaw section 550.6F requires restriction of further subdivision of the lot shown on the plan with a note so stating added to the plan. The special permit will include a condition that prior to the start of construction, a deed restriction shall be recorded, stating that no lot in the flexible open space development may be further divided or subdivided into additional building lots, and a note shall be added to the plan to reference this condition. 17, Scituate zoning bylaw section 550.6G permits the planning board to specify roadway, drainage, and utility design requirements deemed necessary to ensure adequate access, lessen congestion, provide proper drainage, protect public safety, or provide for water, sewage, utilities, or other municipal services. The plans have been reviewed by the Traffic Rules and Regulations Committee, the DPW, and the town's consulting engineer. Completion of items they recommend shall be included in the conditions of approval. Based on these findings and information submitted by the applicant and reviewed by the board, this development meets the requirements for a flexible open space development, section 550 of the zoning bylaw.
Questions from the board? Comments from the board?
You want second first, or?
Well,
The motion has been made. Do you want to discuss it?
how do you do it that way?
Generally discuss
Oh.
it after you second it.
Okay, I second.
Okay.
Any discussion? Comments, questions from the board?
Just under section 9E, just trying to reconcile what we just signed off on the tree thing. It says that the applicant has agreed to replace the trees that are removed in other locations? I don't remember that being sort of a condition of the scenic
That
road
was
approval.
actually talked about earlier in this document someplace, if I'm not mistaken.
In this one?
Oh, no, I'm sorry, in the scenic road approval.
Well, it says the town will plant the trees in that one.
Yep, you're right.
So I'm just trying to reconcile that.
Is there a difference between the right-of-way?
I'm looking at guideline 3 recommends preservation of adjacent trees, necessary to remove trees with the applicant, oh, I see, I'm sorry. So,
They just don't seem to be saying the same thing.
Well, these are the additional ones that are being taken out in the site distance triangle.
Additional on top of these?
Oh, yeah, there's definitely more.
Oh, I see, okay.
Okay.
I think
there's
this one
two.
was for the driveway, the scenic road one was for the driveway. It was
they're
one
closer to
that had
the
to be
street.
cut down where the driveway came in.
Yeah.
And these are for the site distance easement, so there's something like, I don't know, a few, I think they're just a few, really. What are they, 5 or so?
Yeah.
But these are in a somewhat different area, and these are on the applicant's property. The other one was on the town road layout. So I think that's why the town
okay.
agreed to
Okay.
replace.
So in this case, the applicant is replacing them and planting them as well. It's not the
I think
town.
they said that they would during the,
Okay.
I mean, that's one of the public benefits.
Right. I'm just trying to
Oh, yeah,
have so
yeah.
much going on
So
here.
there's,
and
so
trying to
there's no
reconcile.
conflict
Yeah, no, good.
between these two
question.
documents?
We're all set on that? Any other comments?
Yep.
The applicant? Member of the public? Do I have a motion to second? Yes, sir, public.
Will there be plantings done in the uncertain zones that can be dug up?
No.
No,
No, it's
I'm
non-disturbed.
not sure whether you decide that.
nope, that was definitely
It's a non-disturbed
decided
zone.
upon.
Do I have any further discussion? I have a motion, a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Next item on the list is the special permit approval motion and condition. What I'd like to do with this is, and to the applicant, if you have a comment or a question, just put a hold on it.
Motion.
Because I think they're
Yep.
broken down into general and then prior to endorsement and so forth. So if there's any hold under general, we'll wrap that up before we go to the next section.
Oh, so the blue is referring to what?
Just so everybody knows, what this is, the black type was what I, put out there after, all of our meetings and so on. The blue is what Greg has, either Greg or Mike Hayes, I'm not sure, have proposed to change.
Okay.
And
And
did
do
you
we
have
need to
comments
vote on the
these?
changes?
I think, I don't remember
Yes.
when I got these. I will. Yeah,
You
I
will?
mean, I think they probably understand, to a certain extent where I'm coming from, and I think I understand where they're coming from, but, we didn't keep going back and forth with comments.
Okay, do you want me to read the struck out parts as well, Laura?
I don't know.
Or Bill?
I think you should.
Okay.
Okay.
Shall I note them in my reading as being
Yeah.
struck out?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, and we'll do the same thing with the underlined parts.
Okay, and part of this also goes on to this, the next page, which I think it's in the form of an email.
Prior to endorsement of the definitive plan.
Reg that he copied Karen on, yes, yeah. So those,
So
Maybe
before we
we
read
don't-
this as a motion, shouldn't we address
Stand by,
anything
you're-
that-
No, I know, I know.
the way we usually do that is condition by
You're my
condition.
wingman on this thing.
Yeah.
They usually put holds
other
on them,
Bob.
and then at the end we go, back.
All right.
But in this case, we'll go, the first one we'll do is general, and the next one will be required prior to. So any holds that we've got under general will resolve before we go to the next section.
Okay.
Just so there's no misunderstanding, well,
I'm sorry?
We'll hold at the end of the reading of the generals, and then we'll talk about those.
Yep.
Mhm.
I don't want to interrupt Bob.
When he's on a roll, I'd appreciate
I know,
it.
I picked a good,
Feel
a good-
free to interrupt at any time,
I
Michael.
picked a very good day to pass the baton.
Yeah, this is a little, I should have read the fine print.
We need to see a dentist note.
I'll get it for you.
We should have a dentist on retainer, it seems.
That's what it's called.
No pun intended.
Yeah, that's right, that's right. All right, are
She
we
said
ready?
street code.
Yes.
All right, motion. Based on the findings of fact, I move that the planning board approve the flexible open space development special permit for 305 Country Way with the following conditions. General, 1, all construction shall be according to a plan by Morse Engineering Company, Inc. Titled, White Ash Farm, a definitive flexible open space development plan dated February 19th, 2013, revised through December 4th, 2013, stamped by William McGovern, PLS, on December 23rd, 2013, and with any additional revisions as needed to conform to these conditions. 2, construction shall meet all requirements of the Fire Department, the Building Department, the Board of Health, the Conservation Commission, Massachusetts DEP, the State Building Code, and all applicable federal, state, and local laws and regulations. 3, installation of all water mains and appurtenances shall be performed according to the specifications of the Scituate DPW. 4, the total number of residential dwelling units on the site shall not exceed 3, underlined, with the exception of permitted accessory dwellings. Cease underline. There shall be no further division or subdivision of any lot shown on the plan for the purpose of construction of an additional dwelling. 5, access to all lots shall be over the proposed subdivision road. Strikeout, there shall be no further extensions of the road or attachments of any other roads or common driveways to the proposed subdivision road. Cease strikeout. 6, the drainage system shall be maintained according to the long-term operation and maintenance plan, best management practices by Morse Engineering Company, Inc., dated February 19th, 2013, with revisions through July 11th, 2013, and as revised to incorporate comments by the town's consulting engineer, John Chesia, P.E. of Chesia Consulting Services, LLC. 7, prior to installation of an entrance sign, a sketch showing dimensions, location, materials, and color shall be approved by the underlined planning board, cease underline, strikeout, town planner, cease strikeout.
I'd like to hold 4 and 5. Any other holds?
I would say on 6, I think we need to add something that is.
You want to hold on 6?
Yeah, let's do that too.
Okay. So we got a hold on 4, 5, and 6. Any others? It's not bad. It's a
Just
little
a-
less than 50%.
Just a question on 7, when these have to be approved by the planning board as opposed to being approved in the office, I'm assuming that means, just to, so we're all on the same page, that means that the applicant's got to come in with something. Okay.
Yeah,
Sure.
I think that's pretty consistent with what we've done in the past.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think like Tilden Farms, that wasn't approved by
We
us.
just did it for the
Yeah.
one out on the Rotary, so, right?
The one-
Well, that was a
Commercial
that was a
sign.
sign, it wasn't a development sign.
Yeah,
A subdivision,
still a sign, right?
well,
Well, it is. I mean, this sign might be something pretty big that you really want to take a look at. Some of the other things, I'm not sure, why there was a decision that you would rather go, come into a meeting. To my way of thinking, I certainly have no particular interest in doing this, and, if the board doesn't want me to, that's clear direction, but it seems like it would save time and possibly money for the applicant to be able to do this, in the office, and I'm probably going to be consulting with Bill. That's how we usually that's how we do a lot of these details. Whereas coming into a planning board meeting, they might, want to have representation, it's time on your agendas. As long as you're all okay with all that, I just,
I'm going to suggest that we do it with the town planner. I think it ends up, it's a more efficient way of doing it, and if the town planner wants to bring it to the board, then she can do that.
well, you know that, we're
Yeah.
going to discuss it, so.
Yeah, I would certainly agree with that.
Yeah, I don't have a strong feeling either way, although, was there a reason, that was one of your suggestion, right? The applicant?
Yeah, that was the applicant's request.
Yeah, I'm
We're-
okay with
We're
it, too.
okay with
I mean,
Laura making the decision, Laura and Bill, if it's all right with you.
We accept
Accept
the
it.
board's position on it.
Okay, so
All right, so shall we,
planning board gets struck and town planner gets unstruck.
so, shall I reread 7? No.
You could just say that.
Okay.
Okay. Item 4. It says the total number of residential units on site shall not exceed 3 with the exception of permitted accessory dwellings. I'm going to suggest that, given the density in the subdivision and the sensitivity of the area, that we not allow accessory dwellings.
That's where I was going with
It's
it.
not a bad point. Greg, do you have a plan that shows the buildable footprint, with setbacks and stuff like that?
I do, I can turn to that if you want.
Would you mind?
Layout plan has building envelopes on it,
But there's no,
represented by the dash lines. The
There's no-
grading plan has actual
oh, the house,
footprints on it.
yeah, okay. I'm trying to get a sense of what would happen in terms of setbacks if I wanted to add a room, or something like that. Not a separate accessory dwelling, but an additional piece of building attached to the original house.
I mean, you
Are you
certainly,
saying, is there room to do it? you mean?
Yeah, exactly. Is there room to do
I
it?
get you.
you certainly could add some additions on them. I think what the applicant was determining here is accessory dwelling units are allowed within an existing structure. And so if you wanted to convert a basement, or if you wanted to put an addition on and add an accessory dwelling unit,
A mother-in-law
this
apartment or something.
would prohibit you from doing so.
So is there, in your mind, Bill, a distinction between an accessory dwelling that's part of the only building that you're gonna see on the site as
No, when I
opposed to a
looked at it, whether it
separated
was an
one?
addition or whether it was incorporated in the house,
Either one?
I'm not in favor of that for any.
Okay.
It adds, the resident on the piece of property with the need for parking
Yeah.
and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
Greater chance to throw stuff
Yeah.
over the fence.
I think that's a good compromise.
In a place that's a relatively tight
What's that?
location here.
Mhm.
It's accessory.
And as you suggest, Bob, if somebody can build out,
Well,
that means
But
they
if
can
you-
build a bigger footprint.
I understand.
Accessory dwelling.
Accessory dwelling.
But we've got an accessory dwelling bylaw that says you can do this. So can we condition and therefore wipe out, the regulations that are already in the bylaw?
This is a special
It's a
permit,
special permit, right?
So we can do anything, relatively anything.
relatively.
I'm not totally comfortable with that.
I'm sorry, you're not totally comfortable with what?
I'm not totally
Restricting?
comfortable with restricting accessory dwellings, in the sense that we've seen accessory dwellings that went into an existing home that added little or no new space, that simply converted existing space within the house by adding a kitchen, by taking a bedroom even offline in terms of the septic system. So, you know what I'm saying? You can
But added
make a legal accessory dwelling without
The added
doing
parking-
anything that's going to affect this site.
Added impervious surface. I mean, you need to have
There'd have to be
parking for the
parking, yeah.
impervious, you're right, so,
Yeah, but who's to say there's not enough parking, already?
I'm just saying, this is already a tight site, and feels to me like that would be an acceptable compromise on this one.
All right, I mean, I'll vote with the majority of the board, I really will, but you're putting a restriction on these homes that no other house in the town has. Not the ones down on the 5,000 square foot non-conforming lots in the Sand Hills. No place else in the town is there a restriction that we're about to put on these
If we were
properties.
approving those today, we might
We're
put
not.
those on, right? We're
We're
not,
not.
those are already built.
Yep.
Okay,
However, the flip side, what's the legal recourse? Let's just say theoretically, someone does come back to us with an accessory dwelling. We have the ability at that point to deny it based on, well,
oh, you mean, yeah, in this
like if
instance?
say that we allowed it,
Yep.
and they would have to come back.
Didn't not allow it. To allow it, you don't have to do anything, it's already allowed.
Well, yeah, except that I understand why they put that instead of saying not exceed 3, with the exception of the permitted accessory dwellings.
Right.
But once they come to before the board, we have some leeway at that point, a determination.
Yeah, oh, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
In
That
my
takes
mind-
a special permit of its own.
Yeah. In my mind, leaving it in there gives them the expectation that it would be approved, and I'm not sure that I would approve it.
Well, and I'm not sure I would either. It would absolutely depend on a case-by-case situation.
Yeah, but what would be your rationale for not approving it?
Well, I mean, it's,
Density, parking, the same things you were talking about, impervious, if, in fact, that were the case. Maybe you're gonna come back and show that I can, set my mother-in-law up in what was a family room. I'm gonna put a kitchen in the corner of it, and, I'm not gonna increase the footprint of the house, and maybe there's already a parking space, I don't know.
where are we?
We've shown little ability to deny accessory dwellings, so I would suggest that that probably would not be the thing we rely on.
Yeah, it's a tough one. You can certainly see both ways, or both arguments.
Well, we can sit on it. Go on to the next one. Or do we have consensus?
Well, my leaning right now is, based on the fact that they would have to come before the board again for the individual accessory dwellings, I would think that we shouldn't restrict it, because even though I do think it's a fair compromise, as Bob points out, we don't do it anywhere else. So in town, so it does seem kind of inconsistent to me, if we're trying to be consistent and fair. So that's what I'm thinking.
Except, we gotta start somewhere. This is the first. This could be the first.
Oh, I could be swayed. How's that for wishy-washy?
The question is, I made a suggestion that we not allow permitted accessory dwellings. Is there support for that?
I would support it.
There's 2. Richard?
Like I say, I know I'm the swing vote. Based on the information that I've heard this evening, I would support that as well.
Okay. Bob?
I will go along with the rest of the board.
Okay. So with the exception of permitted accessory dwellings is now struck. The next one is access to all lots over the proposed subdivision road. The struck part, there shall be no further extensions of the road or attachments or any other roads as common driveways to the proposed subdivision road. I see that as providing a means of making sure that the little extension of the road that we put in there for frontage
Mhm.
is no longer extended anywhere else.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And I think that's what that sentence does. So I would suggest that it be put back in.
I agree.
Stephen, I think I heard a yes.
Yep.
Richard?
Yeah, I would be on favor of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That addresses all of the things. So you're all set on 1 through 7? Okay.
6, I didn't mention
Oh,
on
I'm sorry.
6, this is just maybe editorial, is that up on 1, we added this clause at the end with any additional revisions as needed to conform to these conditions. I would suggest that maybe that applies to the operating and maintenance plan as well. If there's anything in here that,
Okay. What's the language for that?
with any additional revisions as needed to conform to these conditions. That's my language.
You got it. Everybody agree with that? Okay. Let's go on to the required prior to endorsement of the definitive plan.
Required prior to endorsement of the definitive plan. 8, all remaining comments by the consulting engineer shall be addressed prior to endorsement of the definitive plan, including revisions to the long-term operation and maintenance plan, best management practices by Morse Engineering Company, Inc., dated February 19th, 2013, with revisions through July 11th, 2013. 9, to reflect the waiver granted by the planning board prior to endorsement of the definitive plan, curbing details shall be modified to show bituminous berm and detail for granite where it is still required. Bituminous concrete berm must reflect loam and seed to the top of the back of the berm. Vertical granite curb detail must be added to plans. 4-foot transition curb adjacent to the curb inlet must be installed as granite. Vertical granite curb shall be set and held in place with a 6-inch lift of Portland cement concrete on both sides and the bottom of the curb. Limits of vertical granite curb shall be shown on the plans. 10, to reflect the road width and other items which do not meet the standard of the subdivision rules and regulations, a note shall be added to the lot layout plan stating, quote, "The subdivision road does not meet the standards of the subdivision rules and regulations and shall remain private in perpetuity," end quote. 11, the applicant shall provide an easement plan with an additional plan sheet. This shall be provided to the planning board a minimum of 3 weeks prior to endorsement of the definitive plan. The purpose and dimensions of all easements as described below shall be clearly shown on the easement plan, which shall include the following easements. A, an easement to allow a homeowners association and/or its designee access to maintain, inspect, and repair the stormwater management system, site distance easement, fencing, signs, and common area plantings, and to allow the town access to the detention basin in case of an emergency. This shall include an easement for access to the detention basin of a minimum width of 20 feet, which shall allow vehicle access from the end of the subdivision road across Lot 3. B, an easement to allow the town of Scituate the right to repair, replace, operate, use, and maintain all streets, water mains, and all surface and subsurface stormwater drains in, through, and under the streets and easement, allowing the town access in case of an emergency, and allowing the DPW to test water quality if this is deemed in the public interest. C, an easement over Lot 1 in the area shown on the plan. Strikeout, and in a triangular area on Lot 37-2-1 from the easement on Lot 1, extending to a point 40 feet away along the countryway, providing that the area within 2.5 feet and 6 feet above the pavement in, this is tricky, underlined, to provide a safe, close underlined, begin strikeout again, site triangle shown on the plan, see strikeout, shall be kept clear of obstructions including vegetation in order to maintain adequate site distance along countryway to the south. 12, prior to endorsement of the definitive plan, a note shall be added to the erosion and sedimentation plan, stating that construction shall proceed in 2 phases. The first including clearing for the road, detention basin, staging areas, and temporary sediment basin. the second for homes as they are built. This will help prevent sediment affecting the water quality of the tributary to the reservoir and protect other wetlands resources. 13, the boundary of the 150-foot buffer to the tributary to the reservoir shall be protected by installation of staked silt sock, the stakes flagged with bright surveyor's tape. This buffer protection shall be maintained until all work is complete. 14, the landscape plan shall be revised to include the following and shall be provided to the planning board a minimum of 2 weeks prior to endorsement of the definitive plan. A, all easements described in condition 11 above with their purpose, boundaries, dimensions, and improvements. B, 3-foot PVC split rail fence from the location near the entrance to the subdivision shown on the landscape plan to the back property line of Lot 3 at the limit of clearing, with shrubs as identified on the plan located on the open space side with minor gaps, but fairly continuously behind the fence. The plan in detail shall show the fence located 5 feet off the subdivision road. A note shall be added to the plan stating that the strikeout town planner and strikeout underline planning board and underlined shall approve the number, type, and locations of shrubs prior to planting. C, 2 freestanding signs, one on the north side of the subdivision road at the end of the stone wall and the second at the beginning of the cul-de-sac describing the purpose of the tributary buffer, limitations on public access, and the reasons for same. The sign shall be white with dark green lettering, constructed of a durable weatherproof material, a minimum of 1 square foot in area and 4 feet in height. Wording shall be approved by the town planner. Add as an underlined, 5-inch by 5-inch square sign shall be affixed to the PVC fence at intervals not to exceed 60 feet, stating conservation area, no disturb zone, and underlined. D, a planting plan fully specifying seed mixes and species of shrubs and trees. E, concrete bounds, strikeout at a distance of not more than 25 feet, end of strikeout, underline, shall be installed at the beginning and end points, end of underline, along the property line between Lot 3 and the drainage parcel. The bounds shall extend 4 inches above grade. F, notes shall be added to the plan stating, begin strikeout. I, the developer, agrees to provide the owners of lots 37-2-1, 43-1-15A, and 43-1-14A, and 43-1-14B, up to 6 rhododendron, laurel, holly, forsythia, inkberry, or similar shrubs to each of the owners for screening along the boundary of the development. Shrubs shall be provided prior to the approval of as-built plans by the planning board. End strikeout. 2, prior to the start of construction, the applicant or contractor shall identify healthy trees shown on the landscape plan between the boundary of the abutting lots to the southeast and the limit of work shown on the landscape plan. These trees shall be preserved unless determined to be diseased or dangerous by strikeout the town planner. See strikeout, underline a certified arborist, cease underlined after field verification. Light fixtures, if any, shall preferably be of an antique style, with the fixture shielded and not to exceed 14 feet in height. 15, a deed restriction establishing the site distance easement on Lot 1 and prohibiting any structure, installation, or activity which would interfere with visibility between 2.5 and 6 feet above ground shall be drafted and a copy provided to the planning board with a check sufficient to cover review by town council. This shall be recorded, underlined, with the subdivision covenants and plans. Cease underline. 16, the homeowners association declaration of trust shall be amended to include the following items and shall be provided to the planning board. no less than 10 business days prior to endorsement of the definitive plan. A, a statement that homeowners are encouraged to use organic pesticides, herbicides, and fertilizers. These may be found through the Northeast Organic Farming Association, NOFA, list of certified landscape professionals available on the website http://organicandcarenet.net/AOLCP-search. All underlined. But that may have been an underline simply because it was a website, right?
That's right.
Yes.
Hope it doesn't ever
Tricky.
change.
Very tricky. Pesticides and herbicides shall be used sparingly and as directed. If professional application is used, pesticides shall be applied by a professional applicator licensed under the Massachusetts Department of Agriculture. Fertilizers, herbicides, pesticides, and hazardous materials should be stored inside on an impervious surface in quantities no greater than necessary for household use. Where outside storage is necessary, covered containers must be used. B, a requirement that the homeowners association maintain the site distance easement on Lot 1 by checking the condition each summer and removing all vegetation between 2.5 and 6 feet in height, with proof of maintenance provided to the planning board each year by October 1st. C, a requirement that the homeowners association permanently maintain the fence on the north side of the subdivision road, entrance landscaping, bounds shown on the definitive plan, and the signs described in condition 14C above. D, the homeowners association declaration of trust shall establish an area for snow storage, which shall not impact the stormwater management system, the open space parcel, or interfere with sightlines or vehicles exiting driveways or the subdivision with the location approved by the town planner, and shall require that this be used for this purpose. 17, this approval is subject to the applicant consulting with the Board of Selectmen regarding their desire to accept the permanently protected open space shown on the plan in the care and custody of the Conservation Commission for protection of the Zone A to a tributary to the town reservoir. This consultation shall occur prior to the endorsement of the definitive plan. 18, a copy of the revised definitive flexible open space development plan shall be provided to the planning board a minimum of 10 business days before expected endorsement of the definitive plan. Do you want
No.
to go back on those and
We need,
Holds on there?
discuss the
we
holds?
need the holes.
Okay.
Can I request a hold?
Question two if you'd like.
Request two, okay, great. On number.
Decisions wise.
On number, well, then I might want to have.
Throw the red sock.
On number 9, the DPW has given us some specs for the concrete that they want to use for setting the vertical granite curb. If it means anything to the applicant or his engineer, it's 4,000 PSI concrete with 3/4 inch aggregate. So they wanted that to be included, so I guess I would put a hold on that for that.
How big aggregate?
3/4 inch.
You have a problem with that being added? Let's look at 11C. The triangular area. What was the extent of doing that?
Just to be specific as far as what was shown on the plan, I mean, if you just say to provide a safe, well, I think there's a word missing there,
Yeah.
but
I think so, too.
I think there were not any dimensions on the plan, and that's why I tried to come up with some dimensions there. I think as long as,
And the reason the applicant didn't like it is?
The reason why is we approached the owners of that lot. We do not own that. This is the lot immediately south of the property. We could not obtain an easement, so we can't be held to a condition that we cannot obtain. We certainly have no issues with providing the site distance easement across Lot 1, and that's shown on the plan on Lot 1, but this is the abutting parcel.
Okay, I think that actually was, I think that was a mistake. That wasn't supposed to be kept in. Because we had discussed that, and it looked like.
Okay, so we.
Lot 1 is something you have control over, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, so we can strike that.
Okay, that brings us to,
So, well, just to, it's a minor thing, but it should really be, yeah, to provide a safe, I think, site triangle
Right.
shall be kept clear of obstructions.
So keep
Yeah,
those
or
two words.
which shall be kept clear, can we just sort of throw that in there? Shown on the plan, as
So,
shown on the
to
plan, to
provide a
provide a
safe-
safe site triangle which shall be
If I-
kept clear of obstructions.
If I may, that entire condition you might consider striking, because you would have the same condition coming up as number 15, which is the establish of the site distance on Lot 1.
Okay, that's fine, yeah.
I mean,
I think
Well,
that's
this,
right.
this is addresses what the homeowners association is going to do, right?
Actually, you know, this was on the easement plan, it's not establishing the
gotcha.
easement, it's
Okay.
putting on the easement plan.
Yeah.
let me,
So can we, I think we're all agreed, we're just. gonna
Okay,
leave
so
it.
this,
okay, let me throw
this wants
something
to
out,
show
because
up.
I've got myself in a box. It isn't ordinarily unusual for me to get myself into a box, but I've managed to bring in 2 applicants into the box with me. In my wild optimism, I thought that we could finish this thing up by 9:30 or so. Needless to say, that's not happening. What I have, the board, I think we got a decision to make, is either do we stop here and then we go to the second one, which is Curtis, or do we come back up and see if we can continue this and then see what time we've got left for Curtis. At any rate, it would have to be continued until the next available meeting. And what I'm trying to avoid is continuing 2 projects to the next available meeting.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm not sure. I'll throw that out and let you guys think about it for a minute while we finish up this one.
I think we had talked about it before. We would, frankly, we expected to come back, Bill, you know,
Okay?
so, to finish the conditions.
Okay, so let's continue on this section, and then that'll be the stopping point. Then, at that point, then we'll do Curtis. Okay. I appreciate that. So where are we? We're 14B?
Yeah.
No, we were done with 18, we were through 18.
No.
No.
We got the holes.
Oh,
On the holds, yeah.
I'm sorry.
We just finished 11C, right?
Yeah.
I could hold on 14B and just add the word high after 3 feet.
3 feet high?
3 feet high, okay.
Just to make sure we don't just get 3 feet of linear fence. But, you know, I realize the rest of the wording covers that situation.
This has that divergence, town planner versus planning board again, and we probably should add, at the end, add in the field, so that what's intended is not that, you know, that the town sets up the number of plants, but just that when those plants are selected, well, I guess there's, you know, some control of the number of plants, but when the plants are selected, you know, town staff would be able to go out in the field and kind of, you know, help decide where they would go.
Okay, so we in agreement on that?
Yeah, so we're going back to town planner, right?
I have no problem.
And can we add in the field at the end?
In the field.
Type of location shrubs prior to planting in the field, okay.
It's not planting in the field, it's in the field, but, you know, we won't.
Prove in the
worry about
field.
that too much.
Okay, that brings us to C, the 5x5 signs verbiage.
Yeah, that's fine,
Is
yeah.
that fine?
Yeah, I think that's a good addition.
Well, other than the fact that it's not a cul-de-sac, it's a hammerhead, isn't it?
Or in lieu of.
Well, the layout though is a cul-de-sac.
It's a cul-de-sac.
Okay, all right.
Just
Splitting
the
hairs.
the paving's a hammerhead.
Yes.
So C is
Should we say, I don't know if this is standard language, but it should say, do not disturb zone, or no disturb?
Well, I think
No, I like that.
Either way.
Okay.
Yeah.
This seems a little more official.
They could look it up and see what a no disturb zone is. How about E?
Could I look that up?
Okay, well, E is kind of, something I think to think about a little bit, because when you have these bounds just at the property line, it can be a little hard to find them. What this is talking about is just on the drainage parcel, the boundary between Lot 3 and the drainage parcel, so it's not, we're not talking about, tons of bounds all over the place.
Which, so that lot 3 is the last one down there?
The last one, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's the boundary kind of going diagonally here? Is that
Yeah,
the-
yeah. I mean, the reason is that a lot of times there are encroachments into the drainage parcel, and people don't know where their property lines are. It seemed like a good thing, but
How long is it, 300 feet?
How long is that?
maybe every 25 feet is too many.
Say at 4 inches, you'll find it with the lawnmower.
Oh, yeah, that'll keep you from,
Line's 210 feet in length.
So if you put one at each corner and then 2 intermediate, should that do it?
I would think so.
Okay. Yeah, that should work.
On or about 50 feet.
Okay, so is it 50? Do you want to go with 50 instead of 25?
yeah, 50 is good.
Seems reasonable.
Okay.
So then on F is the one where they're providing the plans.
I thought that had been more or less agreed to early on, that there would be screening for the adjacent property owners on the southeast.
Was this is
So those lots are.
screening on the property owner's
Yeah, when-
property as opposed to on,
Well, it could go, actually, on the property, yeah, I think
I
there
was
had
thinking it
been,
was on their property, on the development property.
there's so little space there
Yeah.
that I think the idea was,
Along the property line, right?
yeah, somewhere along the property line, I guess it could go on either side. If the applicant wanted them on his property, I mean, that would be fine, I think.
Is that property line a stone wall? Am I seeing that correctly?
Yeah, I think it's a low stone wall.
Yeah, I think it is too.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be right on the line. But I think at the beginning of this one, there were more abutters here. I think there were some concerns about privacy and,
Would they be agreeable if it says the developer agrees to provide the owners, of those lots, if desired?
oh, sure, if decided by the owners.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Not all these.
Couple of arborvitaes.
Maybe you can tell us why you
maybe.
struck it
Yeah,
out.
I guess, we struck it out because we've never proposed any screening along those. We've never verbally offered screening along that lot line. We've never shown it on any landscaping plan. It's never been discussed, and we've never heard opposition from any neighbors there in the audience. That's why we struck it. This was a new condition to us. We'd never heard of this.
We have all the minutes of
Do some arborvitaes.
Put some arborvitaes.
On that.
We put a couple of arborvitaes on each lot. That's an evergreen.
It seems very specific.
I honestly don't remember what the abutters' concerns were in that particular case.
I don't remember screening being addressed at all, or
Yeah.
discussed at all.
Well, I mean, we got one abutter here, so maybe we'll hear from them, but I don't.
It's a nice idea, but it's,
It's like I'm from the government here to help you.
if we haven't,
It hasn't come up, how can we make them do it?
Right.
I know there was some talk about planting in the no disturb, but that ended up pretty quick.
Yeah,
No,
we
this-
we're not- we don't want to do that
The other
regardless.
property. Okay,
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
we'll put this on the,
Okay, then, under next paragraph, it talks about.
I know it,
Reserved. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, just on this particular issue, I know that at one point, the offer was made to plant some trees, I believe, in the no disturb zone, of,
Oh, yeah,
you know,
this wasn't anything to do with
ornamental or
that.
anything
No,
like
this
that.
isn't, no.
I'm only saying that if that offer was made, and we decided that we didn't want that to happen,
right.
then the offer to provide some plant material was on the table, and maybe this is the plant material we want to take the offer on. Since we declined to take the offer.
This is on the other
I
side.
think that
though.
what
Oh,
happened.
I understand, I'm just saying.
It's very, very open on the other side.
Yeah.
And sure, people cleared all the way to the stone wall, and maybe they shouldn't have done that. I mean, everybody's always saying, well, you know, if those people hadn't just cleared all that land. But, you know, when you see woods over there, it's just sort of a natural thing for a lot of people to do.
Oh, my only point is that
You know,
unless I'm misremembering, Mr. Sharon offered to provide some plant material, which we said, thank you very much, but we don't want that to happen. So this plant material could take the place of that plant material.
We relocated all that to right behind the fence.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
So you've already accounted for
We already
that.
accounted for that.
That card's been played.
I don't know.
Sorry, but
Well, we'll leave it open. You-
no, I see what
Leave
you're
it open,
saying.
and we'll see if we can, you know
I
what.
see what you're saying.
So the next item, the difference is, the difference between the town planner and a certified arborist.
Well, the town planner will save them some money, because it's a lot cheaper than the certified arborist. But if they want a certified arborist, that's very professional and very, very correct.
It's your choice. You
What
want
would
an
you
arborist or
prefer?
you want a planner?
Arborist.
You got it.
Okay.
I don't think it's anything personal.
Who knows?
Under 15, it says this shall be recorded with the subdivision covenants and plans.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay?
I
that's
don't- I
fine.
don't see any problem with that.
A, we decide to put that to the website. The only thing I would suggest it would be similar to the website, either that or similar.
Yeah, who knows if that's around it.
That may not be around.
Okay, and similar
Have
websites.
any other items that bring us up to 18?
The snow storage, we ought to include in that laundry list the no disturb zone, just to be clear.
Oh, outside the no disturb zone.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, shall establish an area for snow storage outside the no disturb zone,
Which shall not impact the
stormwater
stormwater,
management system.
the open space, yeah.
Wasn't there something in the definitive plan about that?
Possibly, but I think it's okay to put it in.
So where do we want to add the no disturb zone?
Right after snow storage in the second line.
Okay. Okay.
That's everything
We're
I
now
had.
at the point where we've gone as far as we're going to go.
Okay.
Look to continue us to the next available meeting, which is
April 24th at 8:30.
When's town meeting again, 14?
how long do you think it's going to, I'm going to ask you guys. I'm not going to create the box this time.
It's going to be an hour and a half, I
Yeah.
think. 8:30 to 10.
And the rest of this isn't, we don't have that many more comments.
24th, right?
That's the earliest
I got
date.
before, I got Colonel,
April 24th.
I got
Colonel Mansfield, which we were figuring for an
Colonel
hour.
Mansfield for an hour.
So that makes this 8:30.
Yeah, 8:30. Think we can wrap it up?
To not, like, be here till 2.
I was the one who advocated for multiple meetings, so I'm shutting up.
Okay.
That's how much time we're gonna be allowed.
Can we,
I guess we will continue until 24
Can we-
to 8:30.
can we be allotted an hour and a half?
Yeah, that's what, just, Mark just said it on that.
Got it.
And that may affect other applications that you have.
Thank you.
So we need to, you need to vote the continuance, and we need to get a motion, which we have. Okay,
I
and
guess in the
before you
meantime,
guys
I'd
go,
ask
we
if
need
we
to
can-
have you write a,
You can work out the blue lines and the red lines.
here we are, okay.
I can do this one in short.
So, can you
See,
do a,
Bob, he's doing all the easy.
requesting the continuance?
Yes.
So,
I gotta remember that dental thing.
Yeah, no kidding.
I move to continue the public hearings for the definitive subdivision plan, flexible open space special permit and scenic road, public shade tree hearing for White Ash Farm, a flexible open space definitive subdivision at 305 Country Way until April 24th, 2013, at, is 8:30? At 8:30 PM.
14.
Oh, you're right. See, I shouldn't.
That was going to be tough.
April 24th, 2014, at 8:30 PM, and continue the time for action until May 9th, 2014, for filing all 3 decisions with the town clerk.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
At which point, we now move to Blanchard Farm.
It's interesting going back and reading this of like when they came through
We're
to
now
submit the
having the-
plans, like February. It's almost, it's like more than a year.
How we doing?
Yeah,
All right.
a lot of things in between.
Bottom painted yet?
Okay, so we now have the continued public hearing, definitive subdivision plan for
What
Blanchard Farm
one is
Estates,
it?
41st. Gentlemen.
Better to be right than fast.
Watch the steps up there, Michael, they're slippery.
Yeah, there's a big patch of ice right in there. Your lips.
Might still have that problem on April 24th.
I'm not kidding. We could have it July 4th at this rate. You know, the caribou are gonna start displacing deer around here.
John, how are you?
Good, how are you?
So
How you
let's.
doing?
Why don't you give us an update? We just rotate around, Greg, people come in, people go out. Why don't you give us an update on what's transpired since we last met?
Sure. Since the last meeting with you, we had a meeting with the DPW and Laura in regards to looking at the sidewalks along Curtis Street. And what we determined is that the applicant is willing to make a capital contribution towards installing 2 radar speed signs. And the DPW and your town planner, I think, seemed on board with that. We couldn't identify any specific items with the sidewalk that were easily fixable or easily repairable. Primarily, the concern with the sidewalk, I guess, on Curtis Street was that over time, as Curtis Street has been paved, it has not been milled down correctly. And so you've essentially lost the reveal along the entire curbing on Curtis Street. The sidewalk itself is in passable condition, but you've lost that curb reveal.
Curb, the granite curb.
Yeah, in parts it's granite, in parts it's concrete. When it gets ripped up, maybe with the water line, maybe something will happen then, but it wasn't a project that we could undertake, so we've proposed the radar signs.
Appreciate you looking at it.
Thank you.
Would the radar signs be placed on like each direction, or do you have a specific location, or that's up to the DPW?
Yeah, to be determined.
They wanted to have one on Curtis, going down towards the Egypt store
Uh-huh.
in that area, and then one on Country Way, yeah, nearing this area, but not, right on top of it.
Hmm.
Maybe around the Egypt garage,
Mhm.
because that would be a site where it wouldn't be blinking in someone's yard.
Okay.
Okay, so Laura, anything else you want to add to that?
No, I mean, I think we really reviewed the whole sidewalk situation pretty thoroughly. These flashing signs are not inexpensive. I think they're, several $1,000s a piece. Maybe I'll just say several $1,000s a piece. Did you say six? Six, yeah. So it's not unsubstantial to, provide these.
But as you were saying, let's say $12,000 is still substantially less than if we required granite curbs for the entire development.
That's true, yeah.
So, I mean, there is kind of a, let's say, compromise there, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, I kind of got the feeling that you didn't want like a one-for-one relationship there. You
Right,
know,
no, I'm just saying,
We weren't looking
You
for
know,
that.
flexible.
We're
Right.
fine, I think,
Yeah.
with that.
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay, so I think we've reviewed it. Are there any outstanding questions that we have on the subdivision plan?
Well, there were a number
Well,
of
we have the turning
conditions.
radius.
Oh, sorry.
Well, I know, I'm, part of our package is the turning radius, which looks like that's been addressed.
Yeah.
I don't recall any open items that we have.
I think that was the last one.
I don't think there were. There were a couple of kind of points of interpretation when we went through the conditions, but,
We'll
I
have
think
an
nothing
opportunity to
major.
revisit those.
Yeah.
Yeah, I sent you an email on a couple of points that I
Yes.
had,
Yeah,
all
thank
right?
you.
That was a good catch.
Okay.
So I think we're ready to go into draft conditions.
So we received a letter from Attorney Henderson that his secretary or paralegal was kind enough to put into send in a Word document, and then my comments we kind of commented back and forth.
Laura, before you get into that, Bob mentioned the turning radius, and I'm just looking at the diagram, and not sure I completely understand it. So, I'm not sure what it's telling me, I guess, is what I'm saying. So, could you just explain it?
Sure. So I've received a copy of the turning template from the Scituate Fire Department for their largest apparatus. I don't have it on me, but what I recall is that the front tires had a radius of 38 feet, and then the
Yeah.
back tires,
Is
I
that
believe, had a
cul-de-sac?
radius of 23 or 28 feet. What we've proposed there in the cul-de-sac is an 84-foot diameter or 41-foot minimum pavement, so it complied with the radius that was required.
Can I ask you to just step up here?
Sure.
I just want to
I
understand
think
the
the
diagram.
dark gray is the sidewalk.
What am I looking at
correct?
here?
This is the
What's
granite curbing.
What's the inside thing here?
Sure. So what you're looking at, this here represents the turning movements that a truck would make coming through. In the different lines, the furthest line out represents the front right tire, which would be the
Oh, so
furthest
this isn't
point
a
out.
curb or anything
No.
like that?
No.
All right, I get you.
And in the points in the middle here, the lighter lines in the middle represent like the back driver's
Yep.
side tire.
Okay, I get you now.
I'm correct in that this is the curb,
Yes, that outside
the
line's
the granite curb,
Yep.
and then the sidewalk. yeah.
Okay.
And there's no island in this at all.
No, there's no island in this cul-de-sac.
Okay.
Thank you.
We all set? So let's go to draft conditions.
I guess there's different ways we could do this if you.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Karen reminded me that I need to tell who the voting members are. All 5 members are voting on this one.
And
Sorry
does
for
it,
the interruption.
does it take 4 out of 5 to approve, or just a
This is
majority?
the majority.
Okay.
The conditions got sort of divorced from the motion. If that's okay with everybody, maybe it's just as easy to do it that way, or do you want to do it as a motion?
Well, we can make a move to approve with the following conditions.
We wrote up a little bit more of a motion because there are actually some things in the subdivision regulations that are criteria that are supposed to be used as a decision. Basis for the decision.
This
There's all
is
kinds of
all we
good
have to
stuff.
read?
Well, for
If it's long, I'm giving it to
Steve, you'll
Bob.
do that, right?
Starters.
Okay.
The draft conditions, if we have to
Here we
read
go.
those, I guess that's mine.
I move to approve the definitive subdivision plan of Blanchard Farm Estates at 40 Curtis Street based on the following criteria. 1, completeness and technically adequacy? Technical adequacy of all submissions. Determination that development at this location does not entail unwarranted hazard to safety, health, and convenience of future residents of the development or of others. Conformity with the requirements of Section 6.0 and 7.0 of the Town of Scituate subdivision rules and regulations, except as specifically waived by the Planning Board and the zoning bylaw. 4, determination that the subdivision as designed will not cause substantial and irreversible damage to the environment, which damage could be avoided or ameliorated through an alternative development plan. And subject to the following conditions, wherever a condition refers to the applicant, this shall include his successors or assigns as applicable.
Okay,
Is that right?
this is, yeah, here's some conditions if you want to.
Oh,
You
no,
should
this-
have those.
this is Bob's.
That's Bob's, okay,
Yeah.
well, Bob, do you have your own of those?
I do, I
Because
do.
Okay.
You can have yours back.
Yeah.
Okay, they're not changed, they're the same?
The same.
They're not changed.
Okay, I mean,
Oh, but there's
same as-
certain ones well, the letter shows the ones that they want to change.
So we'll just strike out, or we'll hold on each one
So
of
it's
those,
like
and we'll have to go
5,
back,
12,
right?
14,
Yeah.
We'll hold
16.
That would be more efficient, I think.
Yeah, right. So let's read them all through and just hold on the ones that we have questions. So does this add to the motion? What's the proper sort of segue
These are
here?
the conditions. that
These,
we-
Just continue
yeah,
reading
these
like
are the
it's
conditions,
all
just
one
continue it.
person.
Okay.
These are the
Continuing the motions specific to the conditions placed on the subdivision. General. 1, all construction shall be according to a plan by Morse Engineering Company, Inc., titled Blanchard Farm Estates Definitive Subdivision Plan in Scituate, Massachusetts, dated October 10th, 2013, with revisions through February 13th, 2014, with any additional revisions needed to conform to these conditions. 2, where a definitive plan requires approval, permitting or licensing from any local, state, or federal agency, this approval, permitting, or licensing will be deemed a condition of the planning board's approval, including the planning board's approval of work in the layout of Curtis Street. 3, construction shall meet all requirements of the Scituate subdivision rules and regulations, dated August 13th, 2010, except as specifically waived by the planning board. All conditions of approval and waivers granted shall be inscribed on the plan prior to endorsement. 4, the subdivider shall complete the construction of all ways and municipal services within 3 years of the date of endorsement of the definitive plan. Failure to do so shall result in the automatic rescission of the approval of such plan unless the board extends such said period for good cause shown after the written request of the applicant prior to the expiration of said period. 5, the total number of residential dwelling units on the site shall not exceed 11. No lot in the definitive subdivision may be further divided or subdivided to create additional building lots. 6, the applicant shall agree to construct streets and complete all other work specified on the definitive plan or required under these rules and regulations, meet all relevant provisions of the Scituate zoning bylaws and other bylaws, including installation of all required utilities in such subdivision and off-site and all work incidental thereto, such as grading of lots to provide drainage, construction of walkways, retaining walls, and other details, and installation of water main connecting to Country Way as outlined in Section 7(o) of these rules and regulations, and as specifically required by the Planning Board, within 3 years of the date of endorsement of the definitive plan. The applicant shall maintain all streets and utilities within the subdivision with the exception of water service until such time as maintenance is performed by the homeowners association. Until a street within a subdivision is accepted by town meeting as a public way, all streets, those portions of drainage systems within the street layout, and other improvements within the street layout shall be operated and maintained by the developer or a homeowners association made up of residents of the subdivision or their representatives. The developer shall inform the planning board within 7 days of the date that his/her maintenance responsibilities are assumed by the homeowners association. 7, the applicant shall grant to the town of Scituate a right and easement to construct, repair, replace, extend, operate, use, and forever maintain all streets, water mains, and the stormwater management system, including all surface and subsurface stormwater drains in, through, or under the streets, and easements as indicated on the definitive plan. The above shall not be construed to relieve the applicant and his successors entitled to the ownership of a portion of the land or any street within the subdivision or the stormwater management system, which is generally not accepted by the town, nor diminish in any way its responsibility to complete all construction as required by the applicant's agreement with the town, and to thereafter maintain all streets and utilities in satisfactory condition until they are accepted by the town. An easement shall be provided allowing a homeowners association access to drainage and stormwater management systems, which will be privately maintained, to allow inspection, maintenance, and repair, and allowing the town access in case of an emergency, or to test water quality if this is deemed in the public interest. 8, the applicant shall consent to allow members and employees of the planning board and other persons acting under the authority of the planning board as its agents to enter upon any lands and carry out such surveys and inspections as may be deemed necessary, and place and maintain monuments and marks. As a condition of subdivision approval by the planning board, the applicant shall cooperate with the planning board and town officials and assist them in their efforts to verify that the layout, design, and construction work in his subdivision are satisfactory and conform to the town specifications and the requirements of the planning board. 9, any modifications of this definitive plan, other than as authorized by General Law, Chapter 41, Section 881O, shall require modification by the planning board in accordance with General Law, Chapter 41, Section 81W. Failure to comply with this requirement shall result in rescission of the planning board's approval. Do you want to stop there?
Yeah, I think so. Do you have any hopefuls?
They had a concern with number 5.
I would say terminology in number 4, the subdivider, should we say the applicant?
That just came right out of the subdivision rules and regulations, but
Oh, okay.
That's a good point, because the term is used interchangeably in the conditions. You might want to be consistent and have the applicant throughout, or the subdivider throughout, but you probably should have, once you find identified consistently throughout, which includes one or the other.
Yeah, because it kind of hops, it's a developer, applicant, subdivider.
it's not quite consistent in the regulations, but that just comes, the language came right out of the regulations.
Is there someplace where we could define that the applicant, subdivider, and developer are all the same?
Yeah, we can. Well, I mean, the applicant might not be the same as the developer. because if it's sold, to another developer, then
Yeah, but
it's
we're
not
not,
gonna be
we're
the
not
same.
approving the developer here, right? We're approving the applicant.
Yeah, maybe we should just say the applicant all
I
the way
think the
through.
applicant.
Okay.
So subdivider is gone,
Yep, subdivider is gone.
applicant is in.
Because we already said the applicant could also mean their, their successors.
There's successors and assigns, so, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. This
So
is
what's the issue with 5?
the same one we just addressed,
Yeah.
actually.
My issue is that chapter 41, section 81O states that all subdivisions in all Form As have to comply with zoning. That's all it says. It doesn't say that you guys can restrict zoning. So I don't know what your zoning bylaw says about ancillary buildings, but I bet they're allowed. So I'm not sure why you're imposing a zoning condition on a subdivision when in fact it's ancillary living structures may be allowed in Scituate. I think it's beyond the scope of the subdivision control law, and beyond the scope of your regulations. You have to comply with zoning. It's in the subdivision control act. But it doesn't say the planning board may impose the zoning conditions.
I mean, I look at it from my standpoint, I don't think this is not a special permit. So to the extent that I don't have the authority to restrict it.
I think, possibly,
Mm,
You
Yeah, there's
don't.
definitely a distinction.
yeah, possibly you don't.
So are you saying delete the second sentence?
Yeah, what I suggested is that, I said it suggested the total number of residential units on the site shall be not exceed 11, however, there should be an exception for permitted accessory dwellings. If someone wants to apply for, obviously they have to apply for it, they have to get permission from the zoning board, but.
It's from the planning board,
You
actually.
should go do that.
Yeah, it's the planning board. What happens if we just strike the first sentence?
I think because the planning board can enforce, can make sure that the zoning bylaw
Yeah,
is
absolutely.
carried out, that I think you can restrict the number of dwelling units to 11, but I think you should make an exception for accessory dwellings on this one because it's not a special permit.
I would certainly go with that.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
It's something to the effect that the total number of residential dwelling units on the site shall not exceed 11, discounting accessory dwellings.
Yeah, I said except for permitted
Yep.
accessory dwellings, and what we have to do to get those, you have to do, you have to get a special permit. You have to-
Right.
That's a suggestion on my letter.
Okay.
And we had no other comments on anything with the general conditions.
This is really stupid, but on 8, should his subdivision, should that be like
The
the
applicant's.
subdivision? I mean, I know it's stupid, but.
Or the
No,
applicant?
sure. So where, which,
In number 8, it says, "The applicant shall cooperate with the planning board and town officials and assist them in their efforts to verify the layout, design, construction work in his subdivision."
Or you could go his, her, the way we've done at the end of 6.
yeah, we'll do his, her, I guess. Yeah, just. I'll
Do you
just
wanna
do
be
his, her
consistent?
throughout
What
the
about,
thing.
you can't say the subdivision?
I'm sorry,
Sure.
where's this?
There?
That's fine.
Say the
Yeah, that's
applicants.
fine.
Wouldn't it say the applicants,
Yeah.
just to
Yeah.
keep
I was just-
everything the
I
same?
was just trying to be
Yeah.
non-sexist here.
Okay, so, great.
I'm sorry, I'm backing up just a little bit on 6. Last, well, not the last sentence, the penultimate sentence, it starts, "Until a street within a subdivision accepted." This sort of seems to say that the homeowners association maintains the stuff in the street. Have we covered it enough to, I mean, the homeowners association maintains everything, whether it's in the street or not.
Not the private, well,
They don't maintain the water, the water mains, otherwise.
Who
I guess they
maintains
would-
the water mains?
The water department.
Okay, so should we say that? Which should be
Sure,
maintained
yeah,
by
you
the
can.
DPW or
we
whatever?
saw that.
But I'm really saying that the stuff that's not in the street right away, like the drainage components that are outside the street right away, are still the responsibility of the homeowners association.
But that's in a different area, though.
This part is just up until they're accepted, so it's just spelling out that it's the drainage, it's the street, it's, it's
Okay.
everything.
As long as it's coordinated with that other piece, so
Oh, yeah.
that they have full responsibility if and until it's accepted.
Yeah, I think that goes on that 38, 39, 40.
I think it actually goes in 7 too, right?
Okay, maybe it's in,
Or at least if or until they're accepted by the town.
yeah, and it's also in the homeowners association trust or agreement. It's in the document that gets filed, you know, what all their responsibilities are. But, yeah, let's see, until it's treated, those portions. Somewhere in here, we have language that says that
Wasn't quite sure I ran across it anywhere else, that's why I said it here.
okay,
Why don't we just keep going, and if we don't...
yeah, can we, I'll look for it, because I think it's in
Okay.
here someplace.
That's fine. Just on 7, in the very last line of the first paragraph, I would say, it says start satisfactory condition. I would put if or until they're accepted.
Oh, so he's just saying right here.
This is sort of implying that
It's
they will be
assuming
accepted
until
somehow.
they are. So he's saying if and when they are accepted by the town.
If or when. They may never be accepted, right?
Okay,
Yeah, so I don't think we want to
Well,
leave
if
it
they're never
written as-
accepted, then you gotta keep them in satisfactory condition forever.
That's right.
So what's wrong with that?
I don't want to set up the
The
notion,
expectation?
the expectation that they will be accepted.
So it's if or when, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. I see that.
You all set?
Yep.
Required prior to endorsement or recording of plans. 10, all conditions of approval and waivers granted shall be inscribed upon the definitive plan prior to endorsement. 11, the applicant shall obtain the endorsement of the planning board upon the definitive subdivision plan within 180 days of the date of approval or termination of the appeal period of the definitive plan. Failure to obtain such endorsement shall result in the automatic rescission of the approval of such plan. 12, a covenant or other form of surety is provided in Mass General Laws, Chapter 41, Section 81U, to guarantee construction of the road, drainage improvements, and any additional on- or off-site improvements agreed to by the applicant shall be provided to the planning board prior to endorsement of the definitive plan by the owners of record of the land in the subdivision. This covenant shall run with the land and be binding upon the owners and their successors in interest. Upon approval of the covenant by the planning board, reference thereto shall be inscribed upon the plan, and which shall be recorded with the covenant at the expense of the applicant. The town planner shall accompany the applicant to the registry of deeds to ensure documents are recorded, and the town is provided recorded copies of decisions, drawings, and covenants. 13, in addition to the covenant normally required to secure the construction of ways and installation of municipal services, the planning board shall require, prior to the endorsement of the definitive plan, a supplemental covenant containing those conditions of approval that are intended to survive the release of the statutory covenant. Such covenant shall be approved as to form by the planning board legal counsel. Such covenant shall be executed and duly recorded by the owners of record, and shall run with the land. The covenant shall be referenced on the definitive plan prior to recording in the registry of deeds. The subdivider shall promptly, after recording, send a copy of the covenant showing book and page number to the board. 14, the developer shall provide a draft homeowners association agreement and sufficient funds for review by town council prior to endorsement of the definitive plan. The homeowners association agreement shall include provision that annual mosquito control measures described be taken as described in the attachment to this decision. Any deviations from the mosquito control shall be approved by the Board of Health and submitted to the planning board. 15, to reflect the waiver granted by the planning board prior to endorsement of the definitive plan, curbing details shall be modified to show bituminous berm and detail for the granite where it is still required. Bituminous concrete berm must reflect loam and seed to the top of the back of the berm. Vertical granite curb detail must be added to plans. 4-foot transition curb adjacent to the curb inlet must be labeled as granite. Vertical granite curb shall be set and held in place with a 6-inch depth lift of Portland cement concrete on both sides and the bottom of the curb. Limits of vertical granite curb shall be shown on the plans. 16, the limit of erosion control shall be the limit of work. Siltation fence shall be placed at the limit of grading on the east side of lots 2 through 5. The statement and the additional fence shall be added to the plan as a note prior to endorsement. 17, detail and plan view of the temporary sediment basin shall be added to the plans prior to endorsement. 18, prior to endorsement, the stabilized construction entrance detail shall be revised to be composed of 12-inch deep of 1-inch to 3-inch crushed stone with radii to accommodate construction vehicles. It shall be required to be maintained throughout construction to prevent sediment from being tracked or flowing into the public right-of-way. Additional erosion control such as silt fence and/or hay bales placed prior to a precipitation event may be needed to prevent sediment from reaching the road, adjacent properties, or wetland resources during construction.
Any opposed? Well,
Well, I guess,
Yeah, 12, I think they also had 14, 16, and 18. And 15?
Yep.
Let's see.
I don't see,
so
Yeah, I didn't see anything on 15.
I don't see 50.
Oh, that's right. Thank
Oh,
you.
okay,
Yeah.
sure, right.
Yeah, we have to change.
4,000 pound, 4,000 PSI with 3/4 inch
aggregate.
aggregate. Thank you.
so let's go back to 12.
Yeah, my only issue with 12 is that customarily when I represent developers to record documents, I always make a copy of the recording, providing recording information to the city or town that authorized the subdivision. I don't really need, I mean no disrespect, I also don't need any help doing that. I've done it all my life, and the process is always the same. I record, I keep copies, provide copies, obviously to the client, and the other copy always goes to the town. And as things happen with the subdivision, I always, for example, I send every recorded document to our town planner if I'm dealing with a subdivision, regardless of what it is, long after the subdivision's been approved. So the town, you can walk into our town hall and pick up any recorded instrument that affects the town from the, affects the subdivision from the time the plan is recorded until forever. So I just, what I had suggested is that the last sentence of 12 be deleted. It just says the applicant shall be responsible for recording of plans and providing recording information forthwith to the town planner for each and every document recorded in the order in which, and the order in which they are recorded. So it's a condition. If we don't do it, we're in violation of our subdivision conditions. And that was the only
This is all before an endorsement or recording the plans, so if you don't do it, plans won't get endorsed or recorded, right?
No, this is when you record the covenants, the plans, and so forth at the registry.
This you typically record with the plan,
Yeah, right.
so this whole one actually probably should go, well, you need to get the covenant before the plan is endorsed.
Right.
But if we can just skip ahead to number 19, that talks about the board actually filing the plan with the registry. And interestingly, that comes right out of the rules and regulations. That's not, something that came out of thin air. And it actually, I think, serves a pretty important purpose. One is that the town gets sufficient copies of these plans. Another is that, respectfully, sometimes things don't get recorded, or you don't know what's recorded and what isn't recorded. And because that really officially sets up the lots as, new potential lots, I think it's important for the town to know when it's recorded. I mean, for instance, for assessing purposes and all kinds of other things. So anyway.
With the greatest respect, I mean, sometimes all the recording is dictated by someone who's doing a $5 million construction loan, and they're not going to let anybody touch the papers. So it's not like we all have any control over it, except that with respect to the owner, they want to know that, I mean, they want their plans on, they want their covenants on, because they want their building permits. That's the incentive to do it properly. I've actually never seen this condition ever. I mean,
But I'm hearing that we're not getting.
Well, it's.
I mean, maybe the owner's
yeah.
getting the documents, but we're not.
That's certainly not my experience, sir. I've been doing this for 45 years. I've never not provided a municipal government with any single document recorded in a public transaction, whether it be a zoning approval or subdivision or a cluster division.
There are probably some fantastic attorneys like
Well, I'm
Mr.
not
Henderson
one of them,
is, but there's some that, you don't know, I don't want to say you don't know where they've gone or what they're doing, but you don't necessarily get the documents, for
But
quite a while.
if you don't give the documents, you don't get the building permit, so you don't release the lots.
But
I
we
mean,
don't
I've
always-
never seen
We
this.
really don't know when people are going into the building department. We're not,
Well,
we're beginning to sign off on the building permits sometimes, but, not all the time. So this is just another thing that sets everything.
but you release lots, correct? You release the lots, so I mean, if it's not recorded properly, you don't release the lots.
But that's exactly why we really need to know that the plan has been recorded. So I'm not,
I think we understand.
maybe the way it's written sounds
With the greatest
condescending.
respect, all you have to do is
and
go to your
that's not the way it's
computer and turn it
intended.
on. It's online, every single recording.
Yeah, but we don't have access to the registry. There's only one department in town hall that does, and we can't, anyway.
I think we understand both sides of this thing. What's the board's decision?
Well, just to clarify, I mean, he was actually saying that he needs to provide you, or the town planner, with those recordings, the documents. Was there a time, what was,
Yeah,
can you read?
you have, with a formal subdivision, you only have 6 months from the date it's formally approved and signed to record it. Once you record it, there's no way you could get a building permit. You couldn't do anything unless the town had it. But
Right.
there's an obligation to do it within 6 months, or you lose your rights.
But I think what Laura's saying is she doesn't necessarily get that. Was in your wording, wasn't there like providing like the town planner? Could you read that again?
Yeah, what I said was that the applicant shall be responsible for recording of plans and providing recording information forthwith to the town planner for each and every document recorded and the order in which they are recorded. And later on, there's another provision where we have to provide you with so many copies of each of the plans.
So I'm just trying to think, what if we had that language, but after you record it, you have each document, you
Right.
have, I don't know, 5 days to give it to the town
I
planner?
couldn't agree more. I should say recording and providing each document to the town within so many days of recording. That's perfect.
I mean, I don't really want to, take time in the middle of the day to drive down to Plymouth or even to Rockland to do this. The problem is that we're really not getting these plans. And we found several years ago that we didn't have a lot of recorded plans in our files. And the reason was that people have every intention of coming into the planning board, giving them a copy of the recorded plan, but it doesn't actually happen. So this is just something, I think we could get used to this type of setup. And it's not necessarily going to be like an awkward thing to do. So,
The other situation is that, for example, you can refuse to issue occupancy permits if you don't have the recorded documents. You can, if
We
you
don't
yeah,
issue
but
them.
that-
We don't want to do that.
that's very, very
John doesn't
awkward
want
for
us
the
to do
building
that.
department, and they really
We don't want to
balk
be
at
that far down the
Well,
road,
no,
right?
So anyway, well, maybe, could we try it, and if it's really awful, then we won't keep doing it?
I can't imagine if you're willing to drive to Plymouth or Rockland honestly, sir, what objection you could have to that. If it makes us more comfortable, there's certainly no downside for you.
Well, with the greatest respect, if I happen to represent a client and they go to Citizens Bank and Citizens Bank uses ropes and gray, they'll decide who's going to the registry and when, where you won't see your $500 million or $5 million you need to do the project. They control it, not me.
That will be our problem when that happens.
Yeah, we'll deal with it.
Well, let me say, do whatever you think is right. I have done this my entire life. I have never heard of that condition, and I have done.
It's kind of questioning my integrity.
Exactly.
No,
And
I don't
that
think there's
bothers
a
me a
question
lot.
of integrity at all. I really don't. I would hate to see it
I certainly have a good
construed
track
in that
record.
light.
But that's apparently what it is. It appears it goes not only to integrity, but to one's competence, frankly.
What's the board's pleasure? We want a shotgun?
I don't think it has to.
You do?
It does.
No, I say I don't think it has to go to integrity or competence. I don't think those,
Oh, no, I don't
those are an
think
issue
No,
at all.
it's-
I
Making
think-
sure we get what we need, right?
Well, it's not, it's process, and some processes make sense and some don't. And, well, but if this is going to be our process, then so be it.
But we've never had any condition previous to this where they had to provide documents to you within a certain period of time.
Oh,
Is
yeah,
that correct?
We always have.
Oh, really?
We always have, but we don't get them, then we have to chase after them, and that actually takes more time and energy than driving to Rockland Wood. So I'd like
Okay.
to try this and see how it works. If it turns out it's completely unworkable,
Is there
then-
another alternative where you hold on to something until you receive it?
Don't really have anything to hold on to. I mean, the plan is the thing, so.
Just for practical reasons, the way it's done, most of the time, the last 3 that I've done, it was a nightmare. With toll runs, I had to go 7 times to the land court, 3 times to the Norfolk Registry to get it done. It isn't all that simple. You just don't walk in, especially with land that's half registered and half unregistered. It's a nightmare. You don't just, and sometimes you just have to do things when they have to be done. For example, the Toll Brothers one, they absolutely had to have them on because the utility companies wouldn't give them the rights to do the installation in the streets without everything being recorded. So we weren't ready, but prematurely, we had to get the plans on record. It just was spontaneous. Either that, or you don't get your infrastructure, and we had to have it done by a certain date.
Right.
And it was a spontaneous, difficult thing to, but we had to get it done. I'm just trying to think of, the other thing, in a simple one like this, you might just do the loan closing and take the whole package and it goes with a courier to your title run. We have 2 different abstract companies that record for us. I might not even be there. It depends on the nature of the subdivision. They just don't all work the same way. But honestly, I don't know.
Well, you don't want to set yourself up to have to go back 5 or 6 times.
No, I
Right.
don't, but I think, I think this isn't going to be that type of situation because it's one ownership, it's not registered and unregistered, it's not that complicated, and
Then why
I
have,
think it's something we just have to kind of get used to,
Everyone's
but
been all night doing this. I suggest that you become a shotgun.
I don't understand what you mean.
He goes, you go.
Okay,
I
well,
don't
exactly,
record, so I
yeah.
don't know,
And if it's
so-
not, maybe if we say, the town planner or her designee, so if, there's a choice of, one person's available or whatever.
It may
that
very
would
well be that if he's headed down there and you know that he's headed down there, he can give you a call and just say, I'm headed down there tomorrow morning. And you can sit there and say, fine, go by yourself and then drop off the papers.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, that would work just fine too, actually. It's just having a little more connection with the process.
So instead of trying to have either the town or company, just have a town planner, planning board assistant coordinate it with the applicant to make sure that the plans are recorded.
Okay.
That'll work.
Yeah, that's, as long as we know what that means.
But the coordination is, I'm gonna go down. I'm
Okay,
gonna-
regarding,
Just
Well,
notify
certainly.
the town what the day we're doing it, and I'm happy to have a condition that every document gets recorded.
we'll certainly have
Will
all
We've
this.
just
always-
provide to the town, yeah.
yeah,
We'll get to that
we've
one.
always had that, but
Yeah.
yeah, that's another thing.
Okay, so I
So,
think
okay, Yeah, that sounds good.
So what's the next one?
14 was, the only, I'll let Greg speak to this a little bit. There's an issue of whether we had adequate mosquito control provisions in our homeowners association document. They're actually in the O&M plan, and Greg can explain that. Laura had language which is a little bit more compelling. So what I think our point was that we have in the O&M plan a mosquito control plan that complies with DEP regulations, and we didn't need to know why we needed more in the homeowners association when it's in the O&M plan. Isn't that basically the issue?
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
So your position is that?
We already have it.
You've already got it?
Right.
I think the addition that they're objecting to is the statement about deviations having to be approved by the Board of Health. It just kind of spells out that, if you have a homeowners association and it turns out after 4 or 5 years that there is a mosquito problem, they've never done anything as far as the mosquito control, that, it's okay to deviate from this, but you just have to go to the Board of, it sort of allows them, I think, a safety valve. If they feel that it's not necessary, that it's draining well enough that they don't need mosquito control. So, I don't know, I think it could work in the applicant's favor, but if they don't want it in there, I don't think it's a huge, big deal.
So what's the downside of putting it in?
Rich?
It's a paragraph.
Yeah, I'm sorry?
It was just, it's a duplicate,
something
it's a
to be said.
duplicate,
Yeah,
that's all.
I
It's
think
already
with the homeowner, I think the homeowners, the O&M plan follows DEP regulations and guidelines. And so what we would hope is that the homeowners association would continue to honor and follow state guidelines in dealing with mosquito control. If they want to make it better, they still have to go to the Board of Health and go to an extra public hearing when they're trying to comply with state regulations, which is kind of where your mosquito control regs come from.
My sense is that they would understand going in front of the Board of Health. I'm not sure that they'd understand the state regs.
Or the planning board.
There's actually local mosquito control people too.
They have to go to the Board of Health, that's not.
Yeah, I think they wanted something specific in there because it's been a local concern in Scituate.
It's a nuisance.
So,
Get caught on.
so in other words,
actually
this
controlled by
language to say that the
mosquito control.
homeowners association O&M plan contains regulations regarding mosquito control. To the extent that there's any deviations from these, the applicant or its successor shall appear before the Board of Health to explain the changes they're requesting. Is that what you're?
Yeah, that seems
basically
reasonable.
what it says, I think.
No, but if you wanted to spell it out specifically that it's in the operation and maintenance, I mean,
Well, we're talking about the, I think that's just exactly what this says. It says that the homeowners association shall include that provision, which it already does. So, okay, that's superfluous. So, we've just spent, 5 minutes just talking about something that maybe we didn't really need to.
Right,
But then
it's a
to say,
duplicate.
Yeah.
any deviations from the mosquito control shall be approved by the Board of Health. I guess I just don't see a problem with that. But, if the board wants it to be taken out, we can certainly take it out.
We'll put it in.
Okay.
Okay. What's the next one, 16?
Yeah, again, this was dealt with a limit of erosion control. Maybe Ray can speak to this if you could.
Sure. So the erosion control on lots 2 through 5, this statement here is asking for erosion control up gradient of where all the work is. There's no potential for
5 is
erosion up gradient.
2 to 5 is around the cul-de-sac.
Yes, we had, this is for lots 2, 3, 4, 5, providing it along the back side of Curtis Street. As you know, based on the topography of going out there, everything's flowing in this direction. I understand what the intent of that is. The intent of that is to prohibit these lots from clearing over the lot line, provide some sort of construction barrier. I think we'd be okay if we provided stakes along the property line, staked out the property line, but we don't think it's necessary to put in an erosion control barrier.
I think the purpose of this was exactly as Greg said, to prevent clearing of vegetation, which the board had wanted to preserve all around the subdivision, on the lots 2 through 5, but also on the Whittier Street side too. So, so that's why there was, let's see, that was what we, hang on a minute here.
Can I speak to that?
Yeah, please.
The whole purpose was that to preserve the trees, and they show siltation fence going all the way up to here, and stockpiling area here. So if you follow the limit of work comes down right here and saves all these trees in the corner. That was the purpose of it, to save all the trees in the corner so that work wouldn't go all into the corner.
There's some brush.
But I guess,
So,
is the language, is it's the siltation fence, because it should just be staked out?
That's what we're asking,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah.
Karen,
Was that
staking
provide
it
enough
up,
of a barrier?
solve the problem.
Well, they already have siltation fence all the way up to the whole corner of the side property line, so it's really just swinging it around and adding it a little bit more. It just ensures the trees are going to remain.
So our erosion control does wrap the down gradient side of the site all the way up to that corner, as she says. But, we don't have anything. We are showing that the vegetation is going to get pushed back through here approximately 20 feet,
Pushed back from,
where it currently is. Through here. You see the
okay, well,
existing-
I think we'd like to get some kind of condition in there for, review of removal of trees or something, because, unless I understood the board wrong, when we were out on the site, they wanted to see those trees remain to the greatest extent that they could.
There are no trees out there on that property line.
Well, how
On
come
that-
it's shown on the plan with,
It's a
That's
brush,
just scrub
significant
brush, it's probably
line.
3 feet, and it's all briars, there's no trees at all. The trees are on the
Whittier
west-
Drive.
The Whittier Drive west line.
I thought there were
It's-
some on the other side.
There really aren't, I mean, there's a couple of old
Could we
fences and.
still,
We're
could we?
gonna end up continuing this anyway, so why don't we
Right.
just take a walk out.
Okay, I think we could probably craft a condition that takes into account, if there are trees out there that, we need to protect them by some kind of a barrier.
Well, I think one thing you could do is have, before any work takes place, flag that line, flag the intended limit of construction or clearing line, and we'll go out and take a look at it.
Yeah,
I mean, there's no point, you'll go out and you'll look at it now, and you still won't quite know what you're seeing. But if it's flagged, we can then decide if
Okay, so
if
we're
it's okay.
going to ask the applicant to flag
I
the
would,
line of clearing.
that's what I would
I
like.
think that makes a lot of sense.
That's fine.
And that line, as far as the road construction goes, those trees probably won't be cut as part of the road construction. We're talking about down the road when those lots are developed, is
Okay.
when the
Well, all more
individual
reason
yards will
why,
be pushed.
It's smart to talk about it now.
But we're also talking about conditioning the approval on an approval of that intended limit.
Yes.
So you're gonna have to do it and get our approval now, whether the street's built first or not.
We have no issues on that, we'll
Yeah.
flag it
Yeah.
and we can walk or whatever.
Okay, the next time we have 18 inches of snow,
Yeah.
we'll out there again.
Do that again.
This
No,
time
no,
it'll be
that's-
mud.
Make sure it's really cold out, too.
Yeah, right,
If
right.
we get one more before we need to go on to the continuance here. I think it has to do with the construction entrance.
Yeah, it's, again, I'll let Greg speak to that. We had a request for 6-inch rather than calling stone, and maybe you can explain the circumstances.
Yeah, with the depth of the 6-inch stone being like, if you're not going to get the traction with the heavy trucks at the edge of the pavement. It'd be similar to driving into 12 inches of sand. If you underlie 6 inches of stone with 6 inches of heavier stone, or 6 inches of a gravel base, and then you provide a 6-inch crushed stone top, the trucks will actually have traction for getting in and out off the road. We feel if you provide 12 inches deep of crushed stone, you're going to be spinning a lot of tires.
Bog in.
Yeah.
Actually, the DPW.
So what do you want to do? You want to do 6 inches of something else and then 6 inches?
Yeah, 6 inches of just a gravel and then 6 inches of crushed stone.
The DPW had asked for 4 to 6 inch stone. They want to change from the 1 to 3.
I sound like trap rock.
So, yeah, they want something that's, really gonna trap sediment.
Would that would work, that would give you the traction you'd need at a 12-inch depth, right?
Yeah, something that size certainly would, if we're not talking about crushed stone.
Yeah,
6
maybe
inch
the
trap
crushed
rock.
stone, we want to change that, but they did want 12 inches depth.
12
2 to
inches.
4?
4 to 6.
4 to 6?
Yeah,
each?
4 to 6 inch stone at a 12-inch depth. That's acceptable.
I don't want to get lost on that, that's really minute.
Okay. Great.
Done.
Okay. We need to continue this. If I keep this group after 11, I'm going to pay them over. So what we need to do is continue with it.
Yes.
We've got to go through, what, 40?
It's going to be, April 24th, we just went out till 10. So I think your next date
Can
is...
Can we put them like we did this one, where we have them earlier, and then if we finish up the other one, and wild optimism?
Well, we could put them like a half hour earlier, on the 24th, so put it at 9:30, but,
That means we got to kind of race through the other one.
Race through again, and that means that the applicant or any members of the public might be sitting in the audience for a long time. But
Okay,
whatever.
you tell me what we do.
Let's see when the next one is. The next meeting actually is completely open, May 8th, so we could do this at 7:30 when everybody's really,
It's 2 months down that's 2 months down the road.
There's a construction load on this
I
property.
mean,
Okay.
This is like-
We said nothing more on the 27th of March, so we've got, which is already going till about, 10 o'clock. April 10th. April 10th looks difficult. You got.
April 10th is 50 Country Way.
Yeah, you got the definitive plan and the mixed-use special permit.
And you get both of them. I don't know how long that's going to take.
So I think you'll have the same, well, I don't know, what's 50 Country Way, what's going on with them right now?
That's being revised currently, but we plan on moving forward with the 10 project.
Do you think, so you think the plans will be ready a week
Yes.
before, which is almost
Yes.
upon us?
Yes.
Okay. Well, then you're going to have the same situation on the 24th as you had tonight. But, it kind of worked. I mean, you started at 8:30, and then you went till about 10 of 11. So that's, 2 hours and some. So that would be like maybe 10:30, 11. You'd be finishing on the 24th, something like that. Although I think you have more left to do than you've done so far. So, on both of these.
Yeah.
So I think it's either you're going to continue both of them again, or you should continue
wanna
one to a
continue
different
both of
date. Okay, then I think you continue one to a different date. You've got town meeting on the 14th, so I think it might be hard to schedule another meeting in there.
I was going to say, what about, there's the 3rd, right,
The 3rd of,
of April?
okay.
It's a Thursday. I mean, because we're meeting on the 10th, right?
Yeah,
So
right
it's-
now, I'm not going to be around on the 3rd, but that doesn't mean that you can't meet.
Question, 305 Country Way, this is really off the record, I guess. But I heard discussion that work on that wouldn't be started until after DEP's appeal was adjudicated or whatever happens to it. If we're going to postpone one of these to a later meeting, I mean, I assume, John, that your intention is to get this going this building season.
Yes.
Would it make more sense to continue 305 and to hear this one and get it dealt with
We've already
more
rescheduled
quickly?
305.
It would. We're going to have to depend on Greg's gracious facilitation.
Let me consult with my
to make that
client.
happen.
Yeah, well, yeah, it would be a good idea to do that.
What you could do is you could continue this for 5 minutes later on that same date as 305 Country Way. And if on that date, or prior to that date, we'll know if the DEP thing is proceeding or not. We're hoping that the neighbor withdraws their appeal, in which case they'll
okay.
want to proceed.
Yeah.
But if they don't, I can ask Mr. Sheeran, and that might make sense because we
Yeah.
are continued for later.
Yeah,
I have another suggestion. Maybe this could be continued to, say, 8:25, so that this one comes first.
That could be done.
The April 3rd doesn't work. No.
Nice try.
I'm trying.
I mean, I'll be on record, I'm totally fine with having another meeting, but it's up to the board.
Well, if we were to do it, I could do the 3rd. Just, I don't have anything plugged in for the 3rd, so
I could do the 3rd.
if necessary, I could do that.
Yeah, I could probably do the
You
3rd as
can't
well.
be here.
I won't be here.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And the 17th is not available for you?
No,
Let's
I'm
go
going
back
to
to the
California
8:25
today.
approach.
Okay.
How long do you think it will take us to get?
There were not a lot of comments. I mean, the paragraphs that I addressed, in addition
They're
to,
philosophical, they're in terms of who's going to be doing what.
I think they only had 5 or 6 other comments in the entire conditions.
You could try and just keep going now.
Well, I mean, it's 5 minutes to 11. We still got other stuff. We got to do Walnut Tree, we got to
Yeah.
do.
A Form A.
Yeah, you have a Form A,
Yeah,
so. Well, I mean, I guess if you,
What about?
I mean, what do you
the
think the
2nd?
chances are of convincing someone that when they thought they had a meeting on April 10th, that all of a
If-
sudden they don't?
If the DEP thing moves forward until June, the chances are probably pretty good. If the neighbor withdraws his appeal, then Mr. Sharon's going to want to push forward on that date.
sure.
I think,
I
that kind
don't
of
know.
thought, you're probably more optimistic than I was.
Why don't we go with the earlier? We'll cut
Yeah.
Colonel Mansfield shorter,
Yeah,
go earlier, and, I mean,
yeah, that's,
they
I
said
Roll the
earlier
dice.
this
Yeah.
time, so now next time
If
the
the
other.
other guy sits
if the
around.
other guy sits
Yeah.
around. I mean,
Yeah, I think that's kind of fair, in a way.
Okay, so let's put it,
It could all be Greg's fault.
Let's give, the small Colonel Mansfield, let's give them 45 minutes, so that takes us up to 8:15.
Yeah,
And we'll put Curtis Street in at 8:15,
yep,
and then we have 8:30 to 3:05.
yep. Okay, so we need a, oh,
It's 8:15 on the 24th, right?
okay, Jim, goes. So,
Sure. I think I could do this one. I move to accept the applicant's request to continue the public hearing for the definitive subdivision plan for Blanchard Farm Estates at 40 Curtis Street until April 24th, 2014 at 8:15 PM.
Second.
Oh, and then, I'm sorry, time for action is presently until April 30th, 2014.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Guys.
Have a nice
Sorry we're so backed up.
Do you want me to do this?
Okay, so,
Yeah.
Just keeps filing it, does it? Yeah.
Is it called Curtis? What is this?
Everybody look at the,
Yep.
All the lots have frontage on April Way, plan to be endorsed.
Excuse me, what date did you want me to put, let me interrupt, but the date did you want me to put?
The time for action right now is the 30th. Yeah, I know, but wouldn't it be good to, we're talking about April, I'm sorry, we're talking about April 24th. I'd say, say April 3rd.
Okay, look here. I think I missed it, I apologize.
Was it just trading corners?
do you make a motion?
It's folded one way and one way. Oh, they're two different plans.
Registry plan and,
Okay.
That's correct.
and a land department.
Yes, yes.
That's why nobody.
Well, some- So what's happening here?
there's sort of two motions put together in one.
Different requirements.
Squaring off these lots, the line right now went along the registered, unregistered line. So what they're doing is they're swapping land around and they're squaring off the lots and making the properties a little more kind of
These are all existing
understandable
houses?
looking. Yeah.
These are those
Very
two
buildable
new
lots
ones,
being
right?
created.
No,
Okay.
just land swaps.
Okay.
Shall I move?
Yep.
I move to endorse as approval under the subdivision control law not required, a plan of land in the town of Scituate, Massachusetts, 52 and 54 Irving Road, stamped by Paul J. Mirabito, professional land surveyor of Ross Engineering Company, Inc., for applicant Paul Sheeran Jr., Marvel Homes, LLC, and owner Pamela M. and Joaquim M. Andrade, dated January 20th, 2014, as the division of land is not a subdivision because every lot shown on the plan as frontage is required by the Scituate zoning bylaw on the public way of Irving Road. Also, move to endorse as approval under the subdivision control law not required, a plan of land, Land Court Plan 4226 for 52 and 54 Irving Road in Scituate, Mass., stamped by Paul J. Mirabito, professional land surveyor of Ross Engineering Company, Inc., for applicant Paul Sheeran Jr., Marvel Homes, LLC, and owner Pamela M. and Joaquim M. Andrade, dated January 20th, 2014, as the division of land is not a subdivision because every lot shown on the plan has frontage as required by the Scituate zoning bylaw on the public way of Irving Road.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I will sign those in a moment. You need one or two of them.
Yeah, we do. Just to explain, the selectmen are still considering how they're going to address all the residents and the issues and the interesting situations up on Walnut Tree Hill. But when our vote got down the hall, I was asked to try to get a little more detail into it, so it was clear that the planning board supported getting a betterment from the residents and the need to get 3/4 of the residents to agree, who, so far as I know, there hasn't been agreement among 3/4 yet, so this is just to kind of spell those things out.
So this replaces the
So-
motion or the...
Yeah, this would replace the
that we
motion that.
So the motion that we approved said we endorse their going for
We
acceptance, right?
recommended,
Yeah, it didn't
We
say
recommended
anything
the roadway
about
layout.
a betterment to upgrade the road condition and all the other kind of standard things that were part of what the street acceptance committee wanted.
That, is
Which
that
is-
really our purview, though?
Well, you're legally required to make a recommendation on these streets for street acceptance.
We
So okay, well, whatever,
Well,
you know.
in my mind, we
I mean, this
actually
proves
already-
that-
the way the
saying-
process, the way the process would work is, you go to street acceptance, they come back up, and then they would sit there and discuss it, and if it came to a betterment, then they get the necessary signatures they need to proceed with to proceed with the street acceptance process, which then goes to DPW, they lay out the streets. We look at the layout and we recommend the layout to the Board of Selectmen, who then sign off on it. What's happened is that they've not, the residents of Walnut Tree Hill have not come back up and formally said that they would pay the betterment, nor did they say that they would have 75%, they didn't get the 75% people to recommend going forward with the process. But because of the time frame, they went on two different tracks. And the track that we reacted to was the one where they came out and did the street layout. And we recommended that to the Board of Selectmen. That was our motion. But what we need to do is to caveat that vote, because we really don't have a formal request for street acceptance. So it says, this says that we would recommend the layout, assuming that they would come back up, get their 75% and agree to pay the betterment.
This kind of protects the town because it emphasizes that they need that betterment and that the boards are all like behind that and they can't like.
And we're not going to accept the streets in the condition they're in.
They're in. Yeah, I think we, at least in my mind, we approved the last motion based on that understanding. This is just more detailed.
And this goes back and defines what that understanding was.
Yeah.
There
Right.
it is.
Okay.
Want me to read it?
So, I will read it as we've written it here. I move that the planning board recommend to the Board of Selectmen in the 2014 annual town meeting that the streets of Greenbrier Way, Garrison Drive, Walnut Hill Drive, Woodworth Lane, and Bridle Lane be laid out in accordance with MGL Chapter 82, Section 21 through 24, and be accepted by town meeting to become public ways in accordance with the layout plans dated March 17, 2008, upon the condition that 3/4 of the residents submit signatures agreeing that the street shall be accepted and all the residents of the Walnut Tree Hill subdivision agree to pay any betterment assigned by the town to upgrade the condition of the streets to the standard that the Street Acceptance Committee will recommend for acceptance.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Can I actually have, now that as you were reading that, can I ask a question?
Sure.
I was actually just driving through there yesterday, and I noticed that we're on Woodworth, since you mentioned that lane specifically, where it goes past where the walnut tree little stone pillars are, like the road was kind of not as good a condition going from there down to Old Oaken Bucket. So would the people that live on that little section, would they also pay the betterment? Because they're not really, at least my understanding is, they're not part of Walnut Tree Hill. But does that cover the whole road?
That's actually already public.
It's already public.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, and those people aren't part of the subdivision.
Okay, so it is already, okay. Then that answers my question. And I can
Okay.
see that there was a large quality difference there of the roads.
I have a question too. I hate to prolong this, but I'm being asked as a homeowner, as a member of the homeowners organization, Walnut Tree Hill, I'm being asked to sign something that is going to make me liable for an amount of money that I don't know what that amount is. You know, the town could say, hey, it's going to cost $17 million.
No.
Oh, no,
It
they
ends
came up with an amount.
Part of the process is that they come back up, you come in and request your your street for it to be accepted.
Yeah.
What the DPW does is they go out and make an evaluation on it and give an estimate as to what the work is.
Okay.
In this case, what it means is to grind down and come back up and resurface.
Right, no, I understand that.
They said it was $400,000.
$400,000.
All right, so that number's already been talked about.
Yes.
I'm
So does it
sorry,
mean- so the
I
betterment-
probably forgot
But
that.
this says, any betterment, so maybe it's less than 400,000,
Yeah.
right? Or
Sure,
maybe it ends
okay.
up being a little bit more
It
or
could be,
something.
it sounds to me like the Board of Selectmen could come back up and make a change in what the betterment is.
Yeah, they could. Or you could say betterment if required, or,
That was my
You
thought.
could-
So there is a betterment,
Well, I think you leave it as betterment, and if it's waived, it can't be waived by the street acceptance.
Well, the betterment could be
It can't
assigned
be.
as 0, so.
But it can't be waived by us.
Okay, I'm being paranoid. Go.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
aye.
Now, is there anything else that we absolutely unconditionally have to do?
Bills, bills, bills. Well, and while you're doing that, Bill and I, speaking of bills, Bill, actually Laura and I did present to the town, the selectmen last Monday, and they overwhelmingly loved everything we did, so how's that for short?
Bully for you.
We obviously
On the
sent
zoning
right
articles.
Oh, okay, okay.
I'm sorry.
people. We obviously sent the right people.
Back when Richard could talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, right.
So I move that we approve the Scituate Planning Board minutes of February 27th, 2014.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. And let me sign this. Is this like an adjunct to the minutes, or what? Why is this separate?
Oh, I just put that in there because Bob asked for some minor corrections that were.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
they are corrected.
Gritting the gears, as usual.
So we've got several POs. I move that we approve $2,127.50 to Chesia Consulting for the peer review on 50 Country Way. In addition, I move that we approve $454.26 to Gatehouse Media for the legal ad in the Scituate Mariner. And additional, I move that we approve $60 to Laura Harbottle for the reimbursement for the Citizen Planner Training Annual Conference and registration that's in Worcester on March 15th. And I move that we approve $185.61 to WB Mason for 2 lightweight easels.
Little easels?
Easels.
we have easels.
No, I thought I heard eagles.
Easels, I'm sorry.
Lightweight eagles.
Yeah, lightweight.
And also for it's funny, typewriter lift-off tape. People really still use that, huh? White out. And I
For our
also,
space program.
yeah, I also move that we approve $143 to Image Resolutions for their wonderful job on the Water Resource Protection District maps for the town meeting. They've made 500 of them.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Bob's got a motion.
We have to sign these before you run off.
All those in favor?
Aye.
This is really getting to be.
We are.
Right.